Chang Sun Wuqing asked, intrigued, as no other woman received such treatment. The prince does not honor me, but rather my mother. My mother has paved the way for us. After her death, she did not enter the Chung family grave. And the prince has transferred all his respect and affection for my mother onto me, Li Lizi explained, her voice tinged with pride. The prince may have many concubines, but her position remained unassailable. Chang Sun Wuqing felt a twinge of envy towards his second sister. The two of them arrived at the front of the carriage, which was surrounded by numerous carriages prepared for Cheng Chumo by various officials, all with the simple intent of hastening his departure. Li Lizi had her eyes set on a carriage measuring 4 meters and 25 centimeters in length. Crafted from lightweight steel, it was equipped with an auxiliary system at the base, providing excellent shock absorption and could be pulled by just 2 horses. The two entered the carriage, which was furnished with every conceivable comfort. Li Lizi caressed the large bed and glanced at the windows. This one, she declared. Chang Sun Wuqing had no objections. She felt she had no say in the matter. The prince consort will surely appreciate this bed, Li Lizi remarked. Shall we select another? Chang Sun Wuqing suggested softly. Certainly. But it must be identical, Li Lizi replied playfully, winking. Chang Sun nodded enthusiastically, her heart fluttering at the thought of whether Cheng Chumo might secretly visit her carriage. At that moment, Cheng Chumo was strolling alongside Sun Simiao. I've come to inspect the hospital's construction. I have 100,000 new disciples. And this is a perfect opportunity to hone my skills, Sun Simiao stated. Cheng Chumo smiled, grateful for Sun Simiao's presence, which had significantly reduced the soldiers' casualties. Esteemed physician, I wish to learn medicine. Could you possibly teach me? Cheng Chumo inquired. Sun Simiao regarded him with disdain. You wish to study medicine? Abandon that thought, he replied, offering no mercy. Cheng Chumo walked away in annoyance. Bah, a hulking brute like you wants to learn medicine? Do you wish to embarrass me? Sun Simiao called after him. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. There was no way he could provoke that old man. He shot a glare at Sun Simiao before retreating to the area where the doctors were stationed. While he dared not bully Sun Simiao, he felt emboldened to confront Sun Simiao's disciples. Without uttering a word, he obtained medical texts from the doctors, intending to teach himself. After all, he had little else to occupy his time. The journey through the mountains offered a splendid way to pass the hours. Days later, Cheng Chumo departed, uncertain of their destination. Inside the carriage, Li Lizi asked, Where shall we go, my prince? Are there any enjoyable places? Cheng Chumo remained silent, engrossed in perusing his medical texts. Li Lizi pouted and shot him a significant eye roll. What shall we have for dinner? She queried. At that moment, Chang Sun Wuqing, who was examining the menu, set it aside upon hearing Li Lizi's voice. How about lamb skewers? She suggested. Li Lizi licked her lips in anticipation. Let us eat now, she urged. Chang Sun Wuqing stood to prepare, and Li Lizi joined to assist. The procession halted as the special forces had slaughtered a few sheep, bringing in the kidneys. Li Lizi's cheeks flushed at the sight of the sheep kidneys. Once cleaned, they lit the smokeless coal and placed an iron plate atop. Chang Sun Wuqing placed the lamb on it, cutting large pieces, as the prince consort preferred to eat heartily. Chang Sun Wuqing took charge of grilling the meat, while Li Lizi focused on the kidneys, occasionally breaking into laughter or blushing. The prince consort is coming to dine. And there's wine too, Li Lizi announced. Cheng Chumo set aside his medical texts and approached for dinner. He stared at the numerous sheep kidneys, rendered speechless. I have no desire for this, he declared. But it's delicious. I grilled extra for you. Eat a bit more, Li Lizi insisted. Cheng Chumo took a piece of kidney and tasted it. This is the flavor, he acknowledged. The vast desert lies ahead. Shall we continue? A member of the special forces inquired from outside the carriage. Let us rest here, Cheng Chumo replied. It would be best to avoid the desert. Li Lizi shook her head. We must enter. Familiarizing ourselves with the desert is essential for battle. Though I do not command, I must scout ahead to avoid chaos later. We shall prepare thoroughly before proceeding, Cheng Chumo asserted. Chang Sun Wuqing listened with curiosity, wanting to interject, but hesitating. Eat more, my prince, Li Lizi encouraged, serving him kidneys. To which Cheng Chumo readily accepted. After their meal, Cheng Chumo dismounted the carriage to gather water, wood, and camels. It shall be done, the special forces affirmed. Chapter 440. The game of Cheng Chumo and Li Lizi. The special forces understood that this outing was meant for enjoyment, and they had prepared abundantly. Each carriage accommodated 3 people, with wide tires designed for desert travel. They had 1,000 camels and 1,000 war horses. Their water canteens were made of iron, and the carriages were equipped with metal barrels for water, along with specialized equipment for digging deep wells. One might think they were preparing for an army of thousands with such provisions. Cheng Chumo surveyed the scene. You are impressive, he remarked, genuinely admiring the special forces' ability to relish life. 3 to a carriage, and we even saved on tents. All of this was provided by the officials. They bribed us to expedite your departure, a member of the special forces explained, emphasizing their integrity. Cheng Chumo opened his mouth to respond. You speak the truth, he conceded. Turning to leave, not wishing to see those rascals. The special forces scratched their heads, muttering among themselves that their leader seemed to be experiencing an early midlife crisis. They believed Cheng Chumo should retire, as he was no longer suited for the battlefield. Let the young ones handle the fighting. He only needs to get things started. Inside the carriage, Li Lizi and Chang Sun Wuqing burst into laughter at the scene, their giggles echoing without restraint. After a long while, Chang Sun Wuching finally voiced her concern. Won't they have nightmares from killing so many people? She had seen the Special Forces records during her 6 months in Gansu and was aware of their extensive toll. Surely they must have nightmares? Isn't there any post-combat response? Not at all. They only slay those who bully the people of the Tang dynasty. Their purpose is to protect our citizens. Why would they have nightmares? Compared to them, the prince consort is far more daunting. He commanded the execution of 700,000. Li Lizzie replied. What of the Emperor Emeritus? Would he have nightmares? Chang Sun Wuching asked, her question perhaps unnecessary. They're quite the actors. Don't you know? Li Lizzie retorted. Chang Sun Wuching's face flushed, and she quickly lowered her gaze, too timid to inquire further. Ask the common folk if they have nightmares about harvesting wheat. To the prince consort, killing is akin to harvesting, Li Lizzie stated casually. Yet, Chang Sun Wuching found her words to be starkly vivid. Cheng Chumo returned to the carriage. His expression darkened by the earlier remarks of the special forces. He had overheard Li Lizzie and Chang Sun Wuching's conversation. Looking at Chang Sun Wuching, he declared, those imbeciles Wu and Ti have a single nightmare. In their eyes, no matter how many they kill. It's always just 9, a group of fools who can only count to 9. Cheng Chumo exclaimed angrily. Li Lizzie burst into laughter, clutching her stomach. Your Highness, your assertion is flawed. One might as well question Sun Simiao and the others regarding the matter, and they would certainly affirm my point. The captain of the special forces, having overheard Cheng Chumo's remarks, interjected. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened further. Get lost, cease your futile chatter. He bellowed in anger. The special forces soldier shook his head and departed, muttering to himself about the ruler's inability to count. Hopeless indeed. Cheng Chumo, nearly beside himself with rage, covered his mouth, realizing that arguing with such simpletons was futile. Victory was unattainable. I can't take this anymore. Ha ha ha. I can't take this anymore. Ha ha ha. Prince consort save me. I can count to 9. Brother. Li Lizzie rolled on the bed, clutching her stomach in laughter. Chang Sun Wuching stared blankly at Cheng Chumo, surprised to see this side of him, witnessing his unfortunate plight. It was said that the special forces were formidable, and today, that assertion was evident. Why not teach them a lesson? Chang Sun Wuching suggested. Cheng Chumo looked at him, puzzled. Li Lizzie stopped laughing, realizing that this woman wished to confront the special forces. Do not speak recklessly. Those individuals may appear as soldiers, but they are all Cheng Chumo's brothers, and they can dine comfortably in villas in Gansu, she remarked, her concern for Cheng Chumo's temper prompting her to lighten the mood. Cheng Chumo stroked his chin, contemplating the idea. Perhaps administering a sound thrashing to those simpletons would indeed be gratifying. Li Lizzie fell silent, and Chang Sun Wuching lowered her head, hesitant to speak. As soon as the words escaped her lips, she knew she had erred. Such was her nature. Having earned the rather audacious nickname, the one with the loose tongue, only someone of unparalleled audacity could warrant such a name. I acknowledge my mistake, Chang Sun Wuching admitted, internally dismissing the notion that verbosity equated to error, for it was a common occurrence. You truly embody your nickname, Li Lizzie commented. Well aware of Chang Sun Wuching's childhood moniker gleaned from Chang Sun Wuchio. The latter, having received a sound beating, had learned to be more prudent. Cheng Chumo gazed at Chang Sun Wuching with curiosity, wondering what fitting nickname would suit someone like her. Chang Sun Wuching's cheeks flushed crimson. Do not speak of it, Li Lizzie, she implored. The one with the loose tongue, Li Lizzie quickly interjected. Cheng Chumo was momentarily taken aback. After a long pause, he raised his thumb in approval. This name suits you perfectly, he stated with utmost seriousness, expressing admiration for the person who had bestowed such a name upon Chang Sun Wuching, an expert indeed. Chang Sun Wuching buried her face under the covers, utterly embarrassed. Brother, she called out. Li Lizzie's laughter had transformed into a high-pitched melody. Cheng Chumo seized Li Lizzie, pinning her down with his legs. What are you doing, Prince Consort? Let me go? She protested. Cheng Chumo relished in this playful banter, for each time he did so, Li Lizzie would yield to him. I concede, truly concede. Please release me, she pleaded. Cheng Chumo finally released her, and Li Lizzie quickly scurried away, casting a furious glare in his direction. With a glint in her eye, she declared, I shall take you on, like a little tiger. She charged at Cheng Chumo once more, only to be swiftly subdued again. This led to yet another round of pleas for mercy and attempts at flattery. After Cheng Chumo released her, Li Lizzie retreated to a corner, awkwardly whistling and avoiding eye contact with him, while stealing glances with her big eyes. Cheng Chumo played along, pretending to search for something on the ground. Li Lizzie's face brightened. An opportunity had arisen. She dashed towards Cheng Chumo, attempting to wrap her arms around his neck to topple him. Cheng Chumo, however, instantly lifted his head, a sly grin adorning his face, and once again pinned her down. Li Lizzie wore a look of grievance, lamenting her misfortune. Prince Consort, I was wrong. Please let me go, she implored. That is out of the question. Cheng Chumo replied with a cold smirk. Li Lizzie's anger flared. Prince Consort, I command you to release me. Humph, I am not to be trifled with, she declared. However, Cheng Chumo remained unmoved. Realizing that stubbornness was futile, Li Lizzie submitted. I concede, truly concede, she admitted. The price for this concession was steep. It took several coaxing words before Cheng Chumo finally let her go. Li Lizzie, hiding in a corner, furiously wiped her mouth, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Cheng Chumo approached her, attempting to comfort her, which led to a faint smile gracing her lips. She attempted to embrace Cheng Chumo's neck once more, intending to topple him. But her strength was insufficient, and she merely dangled from him without causing him to budge. Li Lizzie was taken aback, gazing at Cheng Chumo with wide eyes. I was merely testing your strength, Prince Consort. It was a misunderstanding, she forced a laugh. As anticipated, she was once again brought down by Cheng Chumo. This time, her escape was prolonged, taking nearly half an hour. Chapter 441. Entering the desert after breaking free, Li Lizzie distanced herself from Cheng Chumo, gasping for breath. Allow me a moment to recover, she said. Chang Sun Wuqing, observing the amusing exchanges between the two, handed Li Lizzie a water flask. Drink some water before resuming, she advised. Li Lizzie took a small sip, glancing at Cheng Chumo, who lay motionless on the bed. She hesitated to approach him again. After a while, gritting her teeth, she resolved to make another attempt. Chang Sun Wuqing, however, grabbed Li Lizzie's arm. Perhaps it would be wise to reconsider. You cannot overpower him, she cautioned. Li Lizzie pondered this and decided to let him be for the moment. Surely, Cheng Chumo awaited her return, after being bested for half an hour last time. She knew that returning might lead to an even harsher ordeal. You go, she urged. Chang Sun Wuqing, speechless, thought it foolish to speak out of turn. I cannot best him, she admitted. Li Lizzie was unconcerned with Chang Sun Wuqing's ability to confront Cheng Chumo. Chang Sun Wuqing was merely a distraction. Go, she insisted. With no choice but to comply, Chang Sun Wuqing turned to Cheng Chumo, aware that she could not refuse Li Lizzie's request, and steeled herself for the challenge. Cheng Chumo regarded Chang Sun Wuqing with an amused expression, as if anticipating her approach. With a hesitant bite of her lip, Chang Sun Wuqing slowly made her way to Cheng Chumo, who seized her without hesitation. Li Lizzie's expression soured. She had hoped Chang Sun Wuqing would tire Cheng Chumo out, but this seemed a futile endeavor, akin to offering oneself as a meal. Chang Sun Wuqing surrendered, lying still and unresisting. Li Lizzie, infuriated, marched over and pulled her up. What are you doing? Can you not play? Why are you so foolish? She scolded. Chang Sun Wuqing, blushing like a child caught in a mistake, found herself unable to break free. Come with me to bathe, Li Lizzie instructed, dragging her along while casting a fierce glare at Cheng Chumo. How could this rogue possess such strength? Is he not merely bullying us? 3 days passed. The special forces erected a sign in place and dug a deep well, filling every available container with water, approximately estimating enough for 300 people to drink for a year. Can this water be preserved for such an extended period? What if it spoils? The special forces soldier expressed his concerns, believing that everything deteriorates over time, including water. Cheng Chu pondered for a moment. Perhaps we should delay our departure and construct a circulation device, he suggested. His reasoning was sound. The water from rivers never becomes foul. Precisely because it flows, running water does not rot. The special forces, however, were perplexed by the concept of a circulation system, staring blankly at Cheng Chu. He sighed in exasperation at their bewilderment and began to elucidate what a circulation system entailed. The special forces listened attentively, like obedient children, interjecting with excitement, asking if 9 pipes would suffice, or what they should do if it was insufficient. When the number 9 was mentioned, Cheng Chu fell silent. There's no need for a circulation system. Let us just bring along some additional charcoal for filtration, he replied. Explaining anything further seemed superfluous, a sheer waste of time. Dealing with these special forces personnel was quite exhausting. Cheng Chu rose to leave. The special forces did not inquire further and returned to check on their horses and camels in preparation for entering the desert. Cheng Chu also inspected the supplies, noting that Li Lizzie and the others consumed more water, and these matters could not be taken lightly. Once the checks were completed, the team set off. All the camels were tethered together, requiring only one person to lead them, thereby shielding the 300 special forces from the harsh sun and conserving precious water. Inside the wagon, Li Lizzie asked, what is there to enjoy in the desert? There is much to see, such as mummies. It is a place as ancient as Huaxia. Cheng Chu replied. And the pyramids, those structures are quite fascinating. We should observe how they were constructed, he added. Li Lizzie scoffed. What is so special about pyramids? What are they anyway? Cheng Chu patiently explained, and after his elucidation, Li Lizzie came to understand that pyramids are akin to tombs, merely mythologized. Then let us go and seek them out, she declared. Cheng Chu chose not to dwell on the topic further, for the pyramids held a dark history, and one should not be deceived by their grandeur, as they were constructed at the cost of countless lives. Many scientists suggest the pyramids were extraterrestrial communication stations, while others claim that the Sphinx conceals unknown secrets. Cheng Chu dismissed such notions. If it were indeed a communication station, it would not be so primitive. Shouldn't technology be resplendent? Clearly, the pyramids were not. So why do such theories persist? It is akin to the mythologizing of Emperor Qin's mausoleum. As the group ventured into the vast desert, Li Lizzie gazed outside through the window. Initially, she was thrilled, having seldom encountered such scenery. Yet, after a day, her aesthetic appreciation began to wane. What is this? It's utterly dull. There's nothing entertaining here, just a monotony of color, she lamented while fanning herself vigorously. It's so hot. I can't bear it, she complained. Chang Sun Wuqing was no better off, drenched in sweat. Cheng Chu, however, fared well, dressed lightly in a pair of patterned shorts. Li Lizzie could no longer endure and decided to take a bath, mindful that water should not be wasted. as it could be used for the camels and horses. Cheng Chu opposed bringing the horses, deeming it a detriment to their well-being. However, he could not sway the special forces, who had their own arguments. What if we encounter enemies without the horses? How could we possibly fight with camels when we are unfamiliar with them? As daylight waned, the group halted their progress. Cheng Chu and the others disembarked from the wagon. The temperature differed drastically from the day, now pleasantly cool. Li Lizzie cheered and began to run about in the sand. Cheng Chu circled the wagon to conduct inspections. Aware that a day's travel might lead to wear, particularly on the axle, which could easily accumulate sand. The special forces engaged in similar tasks alongside him. Sir, there is too much sand inside. What should we do? A soldier inquired. Cheng Chu retrieved a cloth, meticulously clearing away the sand. It was imperative to clean it thoroughly. Any residue would burden the camels excessively. The axle was prone to damage, and should it break, replacement would be impossible. Just as everyone was tending to the wagon, figures in the distance observed the camp. Boss, should we take action? One of the special forces asked, noting the individuals clad in animal hide. Was it strange? Not at all. In the desert, wearing animal skins is more comfortable than fabric, as it shields the body from the hot winds. Wait a moment. They are unfamiliar with this terrain. We will act once they have settled, the leader instructed. Sir, there is some movement over there, the special forces captain whispered. Cheng Chu nodded subtly, continuing with his work. Li Lizzie, you should return. It will soon get cold, and you might fall ill, he advised. She complied. Returning to the wagon with Changsun Wuchen. Chapter 442. Discovery of an oasis. The sand within the axle was swiftly cleared. Be cautious. We are not young anymore. Do not use knives. Use guns to resolve the situation, Cheng Chu directed. The special forces captain acknowledged this, as they too were inclined to test their marksmanship. In the dead of night, the figures could no longer restrain themselves and charged toward the camp. The special forces opened the windows, utilizing the moonlight to begin firing. After a volley, few remained standing. They waited a moment to confirm no reinforcements were coming before disembarking to investigate. Those still alive received a finishing shot. Li Lizzie and Cheng Chu leaned out the window to observe. Changsun Wuchen watched Li Lizzie in astonishment. She showed no fear whatsoever. How boring, she remarked. Indeed. It is quite dull. I expected something more thrilling, Cheng Chu concurred. Observing the two, Changsun Wuchen was at a loss. He could understand Cheng Chu's demeanor. But Li Lizzie's reaction bewildered him. What had this niece of his experienced? Aren't you afraid? Changsun Wuchen asked, voicing his curiosity. Why should I be afraid? They aren't afraid of me, so why should I fear them? Li Lizzie responded. Changsun Wuchen was left speechless. Time to sleep, Cheng Chu announced. Li Lizzie obediently complied. Lying down beside him, Cheng Chu pulled out a thick blanket. Li Lizzie, puzzled, asked, Isn't it hot under such a heavy blanket? When it gets cold, don't fight me for it, he replied. Li Lizzie looked skeptical. Could it really get cold in the desert? It seemed impossible. Cheng Chu covered himself with the blanket, which he had specifically prepared, while Li Lizzie and Changsun Wuchen only had thin blankets. In the latter half of the night, the temperature suddenly plummeted. Li Lizzie opened her eyes, feeling as though she had tumbled into a snowdrift, trembling from the cold. She immediately burrowed into Cheng Chumo's warm embrace. Changsun Wuchen was also awakened by the chill. Come over here, Li Lizzie said. Changsun Wuchen did not hesitate, quickly joining them under the covers. Fortunately, Cheng Chumo's blanket was large enough that the three of them could fit without feeling cramped. How did you know it would be so cold in the desert at midnight? Li Lizzie inquired. Cheng Chumo did not provide an explanation. To be honest, he did not know either. He could only speculate, and was surprised to find his guess had been accurate. The latter half of the night was indeed quite frigid. Snuggling close to Cheng Chumo, Li Lizzie felt warm and no longer sensed the cold. As dawn broke, Cheng Chumo rose early. The special forces began to clean the battlefield. The previous night, they had only managed to tidy up halfway before the temperature dropped, prompting them to retreat and sleep. They were all veterans who had emerged from the piles of corpses. None of them were squeamish about their surroundings. The weapons of these people are quite rudimentary, the special forces captain remarked. It was their first encounter with such crude weaponry. In the Tang dynasty, such tools would not even be used for chopping wood. Cheng Chumo picked up a knife for inspection. This is not from a regular army. Regular forces use bronze, he stated. Let us bury them simply and continue onward. We cannot afford to waste time. As the team advanced, Cheng Chumo examined a rough map that the special forces had retrieved from the bodies. Where's this? It looks like a hubo. Li Lizzie pointed at the map. Cheng Chumo could not decipher it either, so he took out paper and a pen to begin sketching. Can you draw maps? He asked. Li Lizzie beamed with pride, declaring that she could. I'll help you with the map, but how will you repay me? She asked playfully. Cheng Chumo scooped her up and planted several kisses on her cheek. Li Lizzie squirmed, shaking her head to evade him, yet he still managed to kiss her. I'll draw for you, but don't kiss me. Oh dear, she protested. Cheng Chumo released her, laughing heartily. Li Lizzie shot him a glare before happily starting to draw the map. From that day forward, Li Lizzie had a new task. Every day, she perched by the window, diligently sketching maps while Cheng Chumo continued to study the captured documents. Half a month later, the special forces reported the sighting of an oasis up ahead. Shall we proceed? They asked from outside the carriage. Cheng Chumo dismounted and gazed at the distant oasis. He had visited an oasis during his previous trip to Arabia, where he had encountered numerous poisonous creatures and many passing caravans. This time, however, it was different. Cheng Chumo was unaware of the name of this desert or its vastness. Let us toss a few grenades to test the waters, he suggested. He did not dare to venture in recklessly, for desert oases were not to be trifled with. The special forces complied, moving in to throw several grenades toward the oasis's edge. After a series of deafening explosions, large craters formed, revealing countless toxic creatures. Cheng Chumo frowned at the sight. How shall we deal with all these toxins? He pondered aloud. The special forces gathered to deliberate on a solution. Soon, they proposed. Why don't we kill them? If each of us takes down 9, we can clear them out in a few days. Cheng Chumo nodded. It seemed the only viable plan. Very well, apply sulfur alcohol to yourselves, and let's move, as this area spans only about 20 miles. I'll give you a month. He instructed. The special forces returned to prepare. Shortly thereafter, each armed with Tang broadswords, they charged into the oasis. They first used sulfur alcohol to flush out the toxins before setting the area ablaze, creating a cacophony reminiscent of firecrackers during New Year's celebrations. Li Lizzie stepped down from the carriage, her little nose twitching. What is that delightful aroma? She asked, thinking it might be barbecue. She glanced at Cheng Chumo and then at the oasis, quickly realizing the source of the enticing scent. Covering her nose, she dashed back to the carriage in fright. Once inside, she pulled back the curtains to watch as the special forces went about their lethal tasks. The special forces proved highly capable. Within days, they had eradicated all the toxins from the oasis. It's all been cleaned up, they reported. Cheng Chumo patted one of the soldiers on the shoulder. Well done, he praised. The soldier beamed with pride, as they were quite adept at such tasks, excelling in whatever they undertook. Cheng Chumo entered the oasis and approached the large lake at its center, which was a stagnant body of water. Li Lizzie cheered and ran over. Taking a bath in the carriage had only provided a quick rinse. Today, she could finally enjoy a proper wash. She squatted by the lakeside, and from a distance, the water appeared slightly green, but upon closer inspection, it was remarkably clear. Everyone, step back. I want to bathe, Li Lizzie declared. I'll accompany you, Cheng Chumo offered. Li Lizzie was not keen on having him join. No, turn around, she insisted. Cheng Chumo, left speechless, complied and turned away. Li Lizzie chuckled to herself, slowly dipping her feet into the water. The warmth was comforting. Chang Sun Wuchen approached and joined Li Lizzie in the water, helping each other scrub their backs. Cheng Chumo stole glances at them from time to time. Suddenly, a dark shape emerged from the center of the lake. Cheng Chumo caught sight of it just in time. Get out of the water, he shouted urgently, running towards the two. Shadows began to swarm the surface, rapidly advancing toward the girls. Li Lizzie's face drained of color as she screamed and ran toward the shore, with Chang Sun Wuchen following suit. Cheng Chumo reached the lake's edge just in time to see the menacing shadows. They were scorpions the size of a palm. Li Lizzie was slower than Chang Sun Wuchen and was nearly bitten by several scorpions. Cheng Chumo, summoning all his strength, flung a copper coin at them. He dashed forward, grasped Li Lizzie's hand, and with a forceful tug, he pulled her from the water. The scorpions did not follow them ashore, but instead submerged, retreating into the depths. Woo woo woo, Li Lizzie cried as she collapsed into Cheng Chumo's arms, sobbing. Now was not the time for comforting her. Cheng Chumo examined her body. A spot on her calf had turned purple. Alarmed, he drew a small knife and made a tiny incision, sucking out the black venom. Li Lizzie pressed her hands against her leg, wincing from the pain but biting her lip to suppress her cries. After tending to her wound, Cheng Chumo carried Li Lizzie back to the carriage and laid her down on the bed. Cheng Chumo, I'm so cold, Li Lizzie lamented, clutching his sleeve. Cheng Chumo felt a pang of heartache as he stroked her forehead. It's all right. Don't forget, I can heal you, he reassured her. He rummaged through the cabinet and retrieved an antidote for her to take. Li Lizzie may have been startled, quickly succumbing to sleep. Cheng Chumo took a deep breath. Knowing that Li Lizzie had not yet completely escaped danger and required further observation, he glanced at the still-shaken Chang Sun Wuchen. You must tend to Lizzie, Cheng Chumo instructed. Chang Sun Wuchen nodded and lay beside Li Lizzie, his eyelids heavy with fatigue. The first sensation was drowsiness, and his thoughts began to retreat within. You should rest as well, Cheng Chumo suggested, still uneasy, insisting that Chang Sun Wuchen remove his clothing to sleep. Once he confirmed that Li Lizzie bore no wounds, Cheng Chumo exhaled in relief. Chang Sun Wuchen soon fell asleep. Cheng Chumo descended from the carriage. The special forces had returned, heads bowed in shame. They had not anticipated the presence of toxins in the water. Cheng Chumo himself was surprised to discover scorpions lurking beneath the surface, the kind that were evidently venomous. This is not your fault. I too was unaware. Find a way to deal with all the scorpions, he commanded. The soldier's eyes reddened. Hardened men revealing vulnerability for the first time. A few special forces members ventured to the lakeside to collect the scorpions that had claimed Li Lizzie's life. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened further as he observed the palm-sized creatures. Li Lizzie undoubtedly harbored residual toxins. Would the antidote left by Sun Simiao prove effective? Be cautious. Do not let the scorpions sting you, he warned. The soldiers remained silent, preferring to face the threat themselves rather than allow Li Lizzie to suffer. They steeled themselves, determined to eradicate every last scorpion from the lake. I understand your thoughts. Regardless of your actions, you must exercise caution, Cheng Chumo reiterated as the soldiers departed. intent on finding a solution to eliminate the scorpions. He returned to the carriage, where the two women were still asleep. Night enveloped the scene. Changsun Wuchen awoke. Your Majesty, you should rest for a while. I will watch over Lizzie, he offered. Cheng Chumo shook his head. He could not leave. It was imperative to closely observe Li Lizzie's condition. Observation, an essential practice in traditional Chinese medicine, must be prioritized. Only through meticulous observation could one accurately assess a patient's condition. Nowadays, some hospitals have become quite amusing. Patients are merely glanced at before being instructed to undergo tests. And upon their return, prescriptions are issued without a second thought. Might this lead to misdiagnosis? Misdiagnosis is inconsequential. There is rarely a recourse for complaints. The medical field permits errors. A single reference to an error can absolve all culpability. The law can do little against them. This issue must be addressed through foundational education. If the leadership is flawed, so too will be those beneath them. If the head of the hospital is lacking, what can one expect of the physicians? Perhaps I am overthinking this. The best course of action would be to replace the hospital director. Those who are unblemished should be replaced by those who have endured hardship. Corruption should be met with the utmost severity. This is how one eliminates the root of the problem. Investigating minor transgressions serves little purpose when the director has caused untold suffering. Ideally, a complete eradication of their lineage would occur. Their ancestral graves should be unearthed, and their bones ground to dust for the director to consume. The assets of 100 hospital directors could construct a battleship. Consider how many directors there are. I may be conservative in my estimation. Perhaps the assets of 20 directors could suffice to build a vessel of war. I will prepare a meal, Changsun Wuchen declared. Cheng Chumo nodded. Coughing erupted from Li Lizzie, sending a jolt of alarm through Cheng Chumo. The raspy sound of her cough was concerning. He lowered his gaze to inspect her lips, which had taken on a dark hue. Cheng Chumo retrieved a silver needle and pricked her finger, a drop of blood emerging. He sighed in relief. Had black blood flowed from her fingertip, it would have signaled dire circumstances. Lizzie, Lizzie, he called softly, attempting to rouse her, but to no avail. Li Lizzie's eyes remained tightly shut, her expression one of agony. Cheng Chumo rose and moved to the foot of the bed, lifting the covers to inspect her wounds. The area appeared dark purple. Cheng Chumo's face fell. Despite having drawn out the toxic blood, the situation seemed grim. He pressed his finger against the surrounding tissue, which felt hard. Determined, he retrieved a small knife. Changsun Wuchen hastily provided a basin. Cheng Chumo made a decisive incision, reopening the wound. Li Lizzie's body trembled, and Cheng Chumo's heart raced. Black blood flowed forth. After filling a small bowl, the color finally lightened. Cheng Chumo, wary of the situation, took a moment before bandaging the wound with gauze. He lifted the basin and stood, inhaling deeply, his gaze turning steely. Li Lizzie's prognosis appeared bleak. Changsun Wuchen took the basin to tend to its contents as Cheng Chumo searched the cabinet for a book regarding poisons. After a lengthy search, he finally located the section on scorpion venom. This toxin differed from snake venom. While the latter could be expelled cleanly, scorpions left behind numerous barbed remnants, all toxic. Without proper cleansing, recovery was impossible. Furthermore, a sting from a scorpion was excruciating, a pain beyond what a person could endure, rendering them nearly lifeless. The agony caused by a sting could induce unconsciousness, not due to the venom's potency, but due to the overwhelming pain that surpassed human tolerance. Having read enough, Cheng Chumo closed the book and looked at Li Lizzie. The text indicated that the wound site would retain many toxic barbs, all of which needed to be removed. The only solution was to excise the affected flesh entirely. Cheng Chumo gritted his teeth. Lizzie, you must endure, he murmured to himself. He found a box of anesthetic powder and attempted to administer it to Li Lizzie, but she could not open her mouth. Cheng Chumo could not risk direct contact, as he needed to treat her injury. Let me, Changsun Wuchen offered, taking the bowl from Cheng Chumo's hands. He drank a mouthful and leaned down to share it with Li Lizzie. After a few attempts, Changsun Wuchen succumbed to sleep. Cheng Chumo commenced the delicate task of treating Li Lizzie's wounds. Though he had committed acts of violence without flinching, he hesitated now. His hand, wielding the knife, trembled slightly. Gritting his teeth, he worked diligently for half an hour until the wound was finally addressed. Cheng Chumo stared at the mass of blackened flesh, a wave of dizziness washing over him. He hoped fervently that Li Lizzie would be all right. Morning dawned, and Cheng Chumo had not slept a wink. Changsun Wuchen awoke to find Li Lizzie still unconscious. The good news was that no more black blood seeped from her wound, and the swelling had subsided. Cheng Chumo breathed a sigh of relief, though he remained puzzled as to why she had not yet awakened. A series of loud noises erupted, and Cheng Chumo realized that the special forces had taken action. You care for Lizzie? I will go see, he said. He made his way to the lakeside, where the special forces had constructed a bamboo raft, several members searching the lake's depths for the scorpions. Even grenades had been employed. Yet no sign of the scorpions was found. What is happening here, sir? The team leader inquired. Under ordinary circumstances, it should not have been the case. A grenade thrown should have certainly eliminated a few scorpions. There must be an undercurrent in the water, Cheng Chumo remarked. The special forces captain's expression darkened. We should dive down and investigate, he asserted. As he spoke, he prepared to plunge into the depths. Cheng Chumo halted him. The special forces are no match for those scorpions in the water. Let us not rush. They will eventually emerge, he advised. The captain nodded in agreement. My lord, I will take a bath, he said. When Li Lizzie bathes, the scorpions will come out, and he intends to lure them forth himself. No, that is too perilous. The scorpions move with great speed underwater. Cheng Chumo rejected the notion. It is not that the idea is flawed, but it cannot completely eradicate those scorpions and is exceedingly dangerous. The more shameless a creature, the less likely it is to face extinction. Scorpions are a prime example. Countless species have vanished, yet these creatures persist. Suddenly, Cheng Chumo had an epiphany. After being bitten by a snake, one can produce anti-venom from its venom. Could one not create an antidote from scorpions as well? With this thought, he began to undress. I will do it, you all watch closely. When the scorpions emerge, capture them with the net. I require them alive, he declared. The captain opposed this. My lord, it is too dangerous. Allow me to take the risk. With that, he too commenced shedding his garments. Ultimately, both men entered the water together. Cheng Chumo stood in the depths, observing, hoping the scorpions would appear swiftly. After a prolonged wait without sight of the creatures, he said, let us depart. They must be frightened. We shall return tomorrow. And no more grenades should be thrown into the water. The special forces complied. Cheng Chumo returned to the carriage to find Li Lizzie still tightly closing her eyes. Her complexion somewhat pale. He hesitated to offer her any supplements, fearing they might serve as nourishment for scorpion venom. You have endured much. Please rest, he instructed Changsun Wuqing. Changsun Wuqing shook his head. You should sleep for a while. I will keep watch, he insisted. He envied Li Lizzie, as he could see the concern reflected in Cheng Chumo's eyes, a gaze he had never witnessed before. She believed that true love cannot exist once one acquires power. Cheng Chumo said little, as he lacked the energy for further conversation. In the middle of the night, a special forces soldier outside the carriage called out, My lord, we have captured several. Cheng Chumo opened his eyes and descended from the carriage. A net contained several scorpions, each the size of a palm. Cheng Chumo felt deeply moved as he looked at the drenched soldiers. The desert nights are frigid, and the water is not warm. It is difficult to imagine the immense effort the soldiers exerted to capture the scorpions. He noticed one soldier whose calf was bloodied. Without needing to ask, he knew the scorpion had stung him, prompting him to cut away the affected flesh. Cheng Chumo wasted no time and returned to the carriage for alcohol and gauze. He squatted before the soldier. Bear with it, he said, beginning to tend to the wound. After bandaging the injury, he stood. You must change the dressing daily. Soaking the gauze in alcohol during each change, he instructed. The soldier nodded. Cheng Chumo turned to the net. Captain, come with me. The others may rest. The soldiers complied. The captain, carrying the net, followed Cheng Chumo to a secluded area. That soldier worked swiftly. Otherwise, he would have met the same fate as Lizzie. Cheng Chumo remarked. The captain nodded, observing the soldier's rapid movements. I am uncertain how to formulate the anti-venom. I can only resort to animal testing, Cheng Chumo continued. They have sheep, cattle, and horses. He glanced at the scorpions, an idea forming in his mind. He found a glass cup and covered the opening with animal hide, allowing the scorpions to sting. After several attempts, the Special Forces captain learned the technique. He began to use the scorpion stingers to pierce the animal hide over the glass cup. Cheng Chumo watched, noting the captain's apparent vendetta against the scorpions. He broke off all the scorpion's legs, prompting it to sting even more vigorously, releasing a copious amount of venom. The captain wore a cold smile. Little scorpion, I shall not grant you an easy end. Once your venom is depleted, I will consume you. His voice was chilling. Cheng Chumo was at a loss for words. This was truly deranged. Proceed. Did you not bring many bottles? We must repeat this process daily until every last scorpion is eradicated, he instructed. Rest assured, my lord. I will ensure they do not die easily, the captain replied. Cheng Chumo nodded. You are correct. We must not allow the scorpions to perish too comfortably. We must extract their final value. The captain agreed coldly, determined to ensure the scorpions understood the consequences of crossing the special forces. One scorpion can no longer produce venom. The captain severed its tail and tossed it into the fire. He initially intended to consume it whole, but reconsidered due to its size, opting to cook it first. Cheng Chumo returned to the carriage and began to sift through medical texts. He possessed everything necessary to create the anti-venom. Glass syringes, which the special forces had brought along, were at hand, as well as horses. Many are unaware that anti-venom is produced using horses. A small amount of venom is injected into the horse's body, and after a period, the horse is bled. The blood drawn possesses immunological properties. A horse's resistance is many times stronger than that of a human, allowing it to withstand small doses of venom. Fortunately, the special forces had brought their war horses. Cheng Chumo remarked. Had it been left to him, they would not have been prepared to bring the war horses. What is it? Changsun Wuqing opened his eyes and looked at Cheng Chumo. Lizzie will soon recover, Cheng Chumo assured. Changsun Wuqing's face brightened as he sat up. That is splendid news, he exclaimed. Cheng Chumo's stomach rumbled. Since Li Lizzie's poisoning, he had not eaten. Knowing she would recover prompted his stomach to demand sustenance. Changsun Wuqing smiled faintly and rose. What would you like to eat? He inquired. Meat, Cheng Chumo replied. Changsun Wuqing went to prepare a meal. We have meat. Today, we made boiled lamb, which can be heated and served. Cheng Chumo soon found himself enjoying the lamb. After satisfying his hunger, he collapsed into slumber. Chapter 445, Detoxification. As dawn broke, Cheng Chumo descended from the carriage. A special forces soldier sat atop it, He was the one injured the previous day, while the others, clad in shorts, awaited the emergence of scorpions in the water. Cheng Chumo approached the spot where the venom had been extracted the day before. The ground was littered with fragments of scorpions. Cheng Chumo's lips curled in dismay. These scorpions had met a gruesome fate. He picked up a small cup from the ground and found a syringe, preparing to inject the scorpion venom into the warhorse. The injured soldier watched with eager anticipation, his face reflecting a mixture of concern and pain. That is indeed a warhorse, their lifeblood. How could the sovereign be so reckless as to harm them, injecting them with poison? What if they perish? Cheng Chumo was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation, exercising extreme caution during the injection, daring not to exceed a minimal dosage. Half a cup of toxin was administered to 10 war horses, and now, all that remained was to wait. The horses exhibited some adverse reactions, such as frothing at the mouth. Success would be confirmed once they managed to rise again. Sovereign, please inject me instead. These war horses cannot be harmed. They are our lifeblood, pleaded an injured Special Forces soldier. Despite having taken countless lives without shedding a tear and enduring numerous injuries without a whimper, he wept at the sight of Cheng Chumo endangering the horses. Cheng Chumo ignored him. The soldier hopped over to report to his captain. Captain, it's bad. The sovereign has made our war horses foam at the mouth. He shouted from the shore. The captain nearly lost his temper. Just then, a scorpion was about to sting him but was startled away by a shout from the hilltop. He turned with an angry glare at the soldier. What are you yelling about? The Special Forces captain stormed ashore, seething. Had it not been for the soldier's injury, he would have struck him. Wiping away his tears with his sleeve, the injured soldier pointed at Cheng Chumo. Captain, you must go and check. The sovereign has made our war horses foam at the mouth. The captain was taken aback, glancing at Cheng Chumo, who was crouched beside the horses, relieved to find they were still alive. Rest assured, I'll make sure you have better rations in the coming days, Cheng Chumo reassured, patting a horse's head. The captain's blood pressure soared to 200. What on earth is the sovereign doing? He exclaimed, rushing to Cheng Chumo's side. Witnessing the horses frothing at the mouth, the captain wept. If you have issues, come to me. Bullying my horses is no show of strength, he lamented, wiping his tears. Cheng Chumo turned to the captain. You better hold your tongue. Can't you see I'm preparing the medication? He retorted, though feigning calm. Cheng Chumo understood the deep bond the Special Forces held with their horses. Had it been anyone else mistreating the horses, they would have been dealt with harshly. Cough, cough. The horses want to die. I'll ensure they receive better nourishment in the coming days, he stated, rising and walking away, only to break into a run once he was a distance away, fearing the soldiers might lash out in their distress. After Cheng Chumo departed, the Special Forces gathered around the frothing horses, grieving. This is too tragic. The sovereign is testing the medicine. We must ensure he does not use the horses henceforth. We can manage on our own, the captain declared, with the others nodding gravely in agreement, before returning to catch scorpions. They collected over 100 scorpions in a single day, venting their frustrations on them, with each scorpion meeting a gruesome end. As if that weren't enough, they cooked and consumed them. The following day, Cheng Chumo prepared to inject the remaining horses with scorpion venom. The Special Forces formed a barrier in front of him, glaring fiercely. Sovereign, you can inject us instead, the captain declared, resolute. Cheng Chumo felt a pang of guilt. Ahem, I too wish to avoid using the horses. Your resilience is lacking. Just be obedient and go play, he replied, knowing he needed to be conciliatory in this moment. The soldiers remained steadfast. With a sigh of resignation, Cheng Chumo's expression turned melancholic. Your mistress, Li Jiji, awaits salvation. Alas, life and death are fated, he murmured, gazing skyward, leaving one to wonder if Li Jiji was indeed in peril. The Special Forces exchanged glances, eventually lowering their heads and departing. They needn't deliberate between their mistress and the horses. Cheng Chumo seized the moment, commencing the injection of scorpion venom into the horses. All the horses collapsed, frothing at the mouth. Cheng Chumo stood, exhaling in relief. The Special Forces remained by the lakeside, refusing to cast even a glance in that direction. Cheng Chumo felt an overwhelming sense of guilt. Let us prepare lamb, he announced, boiling a large pot of lamb meat. Brothers, it's time to eat, he called out. The soldiers approached quietly, not uttering a word. After finishing their meal, they departed, leaving Cheng Chumo with no opportunity to converse. The horses will be fine, rest assured, he shouted after them. The soldiers ignored him, their horses in such a state. How could they possibly be fine? Cheng Chumo returned to the cart, finding Chang Sun Wuching feeding Li Jiji rice soup. How is Li Jiji faring? Cheng Chumo inquired. She is doing all right, Chang Sun Wuching replied. After finishing the last spoonful, he rose. Drinking rice soup every day isn't sufficient. Perhaps we should give her something more palatable. Just look at how pale Li Jiji's face is, he suggested. Cheng Chumo shook his head, knowing this was not the time for compassion. She will recover in a few days, he assured. 3 days passed, and the war horses indeed stood once more. Cheng Chumo watched in excitement, holding a large syringe ready to draw blood. The Special Forces gazed eagerly. Sovereign, be gentle, the captain urged. Cheng Chumo's face darkened. He felt an urge to kick him. Get lost and start a fire, he commanded. The captain scampered off to comply. It's a relief the horses are fine, Cheng Chumo thought, beginning to draw blood and collecting it in a bucket. One of the soldiers stirred the blood with a stick to prevent coagulation. The final step of refining was beyond Cheng Chumo's skills. However, he was adept at making soup. He poured the contents into a pot, instructing the soldiers to do the same. Half an hour later, the horse blood was ready. Cheng Chumo filled a large bowl and returned to the cart to feed Li Jiji. Here, eat this, he said. Chang Sun Wuching began to feed her. Li Jiji consumed the entire bowl. You'll have this again tonight, Cheng Chumo informed her. That night, as Cheng Chumo slept soundly, Li Jiji, her voice weak, called out. Prince Consort, I am so hungry, and my legs hurt. Cheng Chumo's eyes widened in surprise as he rushed to her side. You have finally awakened, he exclaimed, delighting in the effectiveness of his remedy. He planted a kiss on her cheek. Oh, Prince Consort, wait a moment before kissing me. I am starving. Li Jiji whimpered. Looking pitiful, Chang Sun Wuching also stirred awake and got up to fetch food. Horseblood, he announced. When Li Jiji took her first bite, her eyes widened in shock. This is terrible, she exclaimed. No spitting it out, it's an antidote, Cheng Chumo insisted. Though tears welled in her eyes, Li Jiji complied, swallowing it down bite by bite. Having finished the bowl, her little face was a picture of conflict. Next time, add a pinch of salt, she suggested. Ha ha, Cheng Chumo laughed heartily, realizing it was time to indulge in some food, and indeed, things had taken a turn for the better. Chapter 446, An Unexpected Encounter with Sun Simiao. Cheng Chumo's mirth caused Li Lizzie to pout her small lips, exclaiming, Lu, you bully me. She wiped a tear to prove her sincerity in crying. Yes, I have bullied you. Quickly, lie down and rest, Cheng Chumo replied. Li Lizzie obediently lay down, her little legs aching, clutching the quilt tightly. Cheng Chumo, feeling a pang of sympathy, reached out to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. Be good, you'll feel better in a few days, he assured her. Li Lizzie bit her lip and nodded. The night passed without further conversation. At dawn, the special forces continued their scorpion-catching mission in the lake. Cheng Chumo divided the horse blood in the pot into smaller portions and placed them in a shaded area. Chang Sun Wuching assisted while Li Lizzie peered out of the window. Her eyes filled with envy. When she could walk, it felt indifferent, but now that she couldn't, she longed for the ability to do so. For half a month, Cheng Chumo repeated the same tasks of administering injections and drawing blood from the warhorses. Are there still scorpions to catch? They've become quite scarce, the special forces captain inquired. Yes, we must continue to catch them, Cheng Chumo insisted. During this period, he had processed thousands of portions of horse blood. Think of a way, if necessary. Drain the lake. We must catch as many scorpions as possible, he urged. The captain nodded in agreement, looking at the warhorse lying on the ground, frothing at the mouth. He shook his head, finding the sight truly pitiful. He had grown accustomed to it. The special forces prepared to drain the lake and began digging trenches. Not far off, there was a sand pit where they planned to divert the water. Cheng Chumo had no objections. 1,000 miles away, in the Tang army camp, a messenger reported to the marshal, Sir, the advance has been hindered, and many soldiers have been poisoned. Wang Xuance's expression remained unchanged. Go. Order all troops to stand by and await the arrival of the divine physician, he commanded. After the messenger departed, Wang Xuance's countenance changed. He hadn't anticipated the allied forces possessing such tactics. Countless scorpions stood in front of the Tang army, along with the blockade from Arab artillery, making any attempt to charge through utterly impossible. The Tang army had bombarded the area previously to no avail. There were simply too many scorpions. A military general entered. Marshal, Divine Physician's son has arrived with over 1,000 disciples, he reported. Wang Xuance's heart tightened. Is there no cure? He asked. The general nodded. Wang Xuance felt a surge of anxiety but dared not show it. At that moment, he thought of Cheng Chumo. What would the sovereign do in this situation? Would he order a retreat? Retreating would be the best course of action, but Wang Xuance could not issue such orders. The strategic objective had yet to be achieved. At the very least, a few nations must be destroyed. Failing to do so would result in ridicule. An army of 800,000 returning without any accomplishments was unacceptable for the Tang dynasty. This was not a decision Wang Xuance could make alone. Send someone to find the supreme emperor, he commanded. The messenger complied, and thousands of scouts began searching for Cheng Chumo. At that moment, Cheng Chumo had just crossed the desert. All the scorpions had been exterminated, leaving none behind. Upon exiting the desert, Li Lizzie joyfully dismounted from the carriage and sprinted away. Her speed astonishing. Cheng Chumo stared in disbelief. This was remarkably swift. The former Li Lizzie had not been like this. She had been quite frail, incapable of such speed. Today's Li Lizzie left Cheng Chumo in awe. Is this truly Lizzie? Chang Sun Wuching remarked, approaching Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo chuckled ruefully, realizing she must have consumed too much horse blood. Had he known, he would have limited her intake. What to do now? At this pace, she could rival the special forces. As Li Lizzie ran, the special forces sat atop their restless warhorses. They coordinated, shouting commands as they mounted their steeds to pursue Li Lizzie. Cheng Chumo mounted his horse and quickly caught up with her. Li Lizzie tilted her head to look at Cheng Chumo and extended her hand. He grasped her hand firmly, lifting her into the air. Wow! Li Lizzie cheered. Chang Sun Wuching stood before the carriage, his face filled with envy, wishing to join in the fun. After a lengthy chase, Cheng Chumo returned to the carriage. A messenger spotted him and knelt on one knee. Greetings, Supreme Emperor, the messenger said. Cheng Chumo turned to the messenger, inquiring, what is the matter? The messenger relayed the news of the stalled offensive. Cheng Chimo furrowed his brow upon hearing of the scorpion poison. Fear not. We have a solution, Li Lizzie interjected. Having experienced the effects of scorpion venom firsthand, she was the most qualified to speak on the matter. Return and inform Wang Xuanzi that I will arrive in a few days, Cheng Chimo instructed. The messenger complied and mounted his horse to leave. Cheng Chimo commanded the special forces to set out. 3 days later, not far ahead, over 10,000 people surrounded 100 physicians, with Sun Simiao among them. Sun Simiao's face was dark and bruised. He had not expected to encounter such misfortune. He had ventured out with his disciples in search of an antidote, only to be discovered by the enemy. Master, we are doomed, one of the physicians lamented. Sun Simiao shot his disciple a fierce glare. These bookish fools have one flaw. They cannot speak sensibly. Never lose hope until the final moment. Healing and saving lives are the same. Never abandon the last glimmer of hope, Sun Simiao proclaimed. Still taking the time to educate his disciples. The physicians nodded in agreement. Master is right. As long as we draw breath, we must not give up. Master, if we perish, who will save us? Another physician asked. Sun Simiao opened his mouth, at a loss for words. In the distance, Cheng Chimo spotted the throng of people and unsheathed his tang sword. He had long sought an opportunity for a bold venture, and now, encountering this multitude, it seemed fortune favored him. Attack! He bellowed, and the special forces charged forth. Their stamina had significantly improved, and with Li Lizzie's enhanced speed from the horse blood, they too had benefited. Cheng Chimo had consumed his share, and today was the perfect occasion to test their prowess. The special forces pulled out scarves to cover their faces, reminiscent of their time crossing the Western Turks. Cheng Chimo felt similarly nostalgic. The Allied forces, upon witnessing the special forces charging towards them, scoffed at the audacity of a mere 300 soldiers daring to confront 10,000. What a joke. The Allied forces commanded 1,000 soldiers to step forward to engage. Sun Simiao smiled, his hands clasped behind his back. Students, do not panic. There is one who has persistently sought to learn medicine from me. Look, he has arrived. The physicians turned to see Cheng Chimo's direction, their faces lighting up with joy, recognizing the attire of the special forces. They remembered how Cheng Chimo had seized their medical texts. Sun Simiao watched with great interest, having never witnessed the special forces in battle. This was a rare opportunity. As the two armies clashed, the Allied forces began to fall in droves. The coalition generals' eyes widened in disbelief. What was happening? Hundreds had already perished upon first contact? There was no time to ponder. Over 1,000 had nearly succumbed. The special forces had infiltrated the coalition ranks. For the first time, the coalition felt the sharpness of the Tang broadsword. The special forces appeared to possess boundless energy, wielding the broadsword with astonishing swiftness. The armor of the coalition soldiers was as fragile as tofu, effortlessly cleaved by the blade. The sword remained unstained by blood. The coalition commander turned his horse around and fled, but Cheng Chimo was already upon him. He was just a moment too late. Cheng Chimo swung his broadsword, slicing across the coalition commander's neck. Without a glance, he continued to slay the enemy, sealing the commander's fate. Chapter 447. Establishing a foothold behind enemy lines upon witnessing their leader's demise, coalition soldiers scattered in terror. The defeat was catastrophic. They fled like headless flies. The special forces could not let such an opportunity slip away, pursuing their foes relentlessly. After some time, Cheng Chimo was unaware of how far he had chased, but the path was littered with enemy corpses. He eventually returned, finding Sun Simiao taking Li Lizzie's pulse. Upon seeing Cheng Chimo, Li Lizzie looked at him with a face full of grievance. Your Highness, Dr. Sun has been examining me for half a day. You must intervene, she implored. Cheng Chimo dismounted and shot a fierce glare at the pensive Sun Simiao. Are you taking advantage of the situation? Release her at once, he ordered. Sun Simiao snapped back to reality and stood up abruptly. How did you manage this? You must tell me. He took a step closer, gazing intently at Cheng Chimo, as if he were a rare treasure. Cheng Chimo felt a surge of pride, secretly relishing the moment. This old fellow had once claimed his efforts were in vain. Who exactly was wasting their time? Who is robust and strong? Cheng Chimo retorted. Sun Simiao's face flushed crimson. Am I robust and strong? He replied, bewildered. He was desperate to understand how Li Lizzie had neutralized the poison. Ha ha. Cheng Chimo laughed heartily, hands on his hips. Sun Simiao's expression darkened, more uncomfortable than if he had swallowed a fly. Provide Dr. Sun with an antidote, Cheng Chimo commanded. Chang Sun Wuching retrieved a vial of horse blood from the carriage. Sun Simiao stared at the horse blood, perplexed about how it could serve as an antidote. Cheng Chimo offered no explanation, turning to the doctors present. What are you all doing here? He asked. The doctors began to explain. It turned out that Sun Simiao had come to find an antidote. Cheng Chimo could no longer find amusement in the situation. This was the coalition's rear area. Returning to the Tang army camp would require traversing through the enemy lines, as well as countless scorpions on the front lines. The scorpions did not frighten Cheng Chimo. They were few in number, and he could clear a path with sulfur. However, the coalition posed a significant challenge. Over 1 million troops could not be breached by his mere 300. Cheng Chimo inquired about the situation in the Tang army camp. Learning that over 10,000 soldiers were poisoned, he grew increasingly anxious. If he delayed further, he feared the soldiers would not withstand the effects of the scorpion venom. Cheng Chimo returned to the carriage, where Sun Simiao was still examining the horse blood. Doctor, how can we return to the army camp? Cheng Chimo asked. Sun Simiao did not lift his head, seemingly oblivious to Cheng Chimo's query. Reluctantly, Cheng Chimo repeated his question, this time louder, closer to Sun Simiao's ear. Doctor, how can we return to the army camp? He insisted. Sun Simiao's expression darkened, and he glared at Cheng Chimo. How dare you ask a doctor such a question? Have you lost your mind? He retorted, before returning to his studies of the horse blood. Cheng Chimo left, sullen and silent. The only person he could consult was Li Lizzie. Back at the carriage, Li Lizzie was combing her hair. Your Highness, you have returned. When shall we go back? She asked. Cheng Chimo recounted the situation to her. We can take a detour, she suggested. Cheng Chimo did not wish to argue. If a detour were feasible, the Tang army would have already taken it instead of being trapped here. Your Highness, are you overthinking? The army cannot take a detour for fear of being attacked from behind. Who among us can catch up? Li Lizzie pointed out. Indeed. The one who is embroiled in a situation can often be blind to the truth. Yes, the army cannot take a detour because they fear being flanked, which is why they advance city by city. Many generals with no battle experience mistakenly believe they can bypass the enemy. The cost of advancing alone is unbearable. It is a grave military error that invites ambush. Cheng Chimo passionately kissed Li Lizzie on the forehead, saying nothing as he dismounted. He had made a decision. We shall prepare to take a detour, he instructed the Special Forces commander. The commander scratched his head. My lord, is it not advantageous for us to remain behind enemy lines? He inquired. Cheng Chimo pondered this. Indeed, staying behind enemy lines could be beneficial. As long as he was in the coalition's rear, they would surely believe the Tang army had infiltrated. The Scorpion defenses would be ineffective against the Tang forces, causing disorder within the coalition ranks. Cheng Chimo was abruptly inspired by the Special Forces commander's words. You all go ahead and scout the area within 10 miles. He commanded. The commander nodded in agreement. He simply did not want to leave. He wished to remain and continue the fight. The recent bout of chaos had been exhilarating. This was indeed their purpose. After the Special Forces commander departed, Cheng Chimo began to scheme. He needed Wang Xuanzi to know he was behind enemy lines. Once Wang was aware, he would dispatch hot air balloons for support, as long as the horse blood was delivered back. Cheng Chimo could boldly wreak havoc in the coalition's rear. He retrieved a signaling firework from the carriage, dismounted, and ignited it. With a whoosh, the firework exploded in the sky. Cheng Chimo had initially worried that the coalition would notice, yet after waiting for a long time, no coalition forces approached to investigate. How could they dare emerge? They faced the threat of bombardment from hot air balloons and had no choice but to hide. When those soldiers returned, they spoke of the Special Forces' remarkable prowess. Of 10,000, only 3,000 returned. 7,000 soldiers had perished. Anyone would ponder the implications. The coalition began to adopt a defensive posture, hesitant to venture out. At the Tang army camp, Wang Xuanzi had learned of Cheng Chimo's presence behind enemy lines. He was deeply anxious, as he did not know where Sun Simiao had gone. He was the hope for those unconscious soldiers. Dispatch hot air balloons to the enemy's rear. Wang Xuanzi commanded. A marshal general complied. Hundreds of hot air balloons ascended, soaring over the coalition's ranks. The coalition could only shoot a few arrows in a token effort, none of which found their mark. The Tang forces aboard the balloons were not idle. They dropped several explosive packages. The hot air balloons passed over Cheng Chimo, who commanded, Li Lizzie, you should also return. The task he must undertake is fraught with peril, and he cannot afford to be distracted while safeguarding Li Lizzie. Although Li Lizzie is reluctant, she ultimately acquiesces. He does not wish to hinder the prince's progress. With a heavy heart, he turns back multiple times, feeling a profound sense of reluctance. We agreed that once you finish this battle, we would continue our leisurely escapades. Li Lizzie states. Cheng Chimo responds with a smile. Rest assured, I have yet to take you to see the pyramids. This brings joy to Li Lizzie. Cheng Chimo then addresses the young general. Inform Wang Xuanzi that they previously disregarded me, but today I stand beyond their reach. In this endeavor to rescue, they all owe me a debt. Ha ha ha. Let us see who dares to expel me. Cheng Chimo remains haunted by past events. The hot air balloon ascends slowly, accompanied by Sun Simiao and the other physicians, who have become redundant in this place. They came seeking an antidote, which has now been found. Can your method truly succeed? Sun Simiao shouts from the balloon. Have faith, Cheng Chimo replies. Chapter 448. Internal conflicts within the Allied forces. The Special Forces and Cheng Chimo are firmly entrenched in the rear of the Allied forces, like a thorn in their throats. Within the Allied camp, hidden among the mountains and forests, one leader exclaims, what shall we do? The Arabs have mountains, and the deserts dominate. The presence of several hundred men in the rear makes things quite uncomfortable for them. Those fellows are ruthless. Eliminating them is no easy feat, as their numbers are overwhelming. The Tang army will bombard us, and with fewer troops, we cannot compete with them. Everyone, let us discuss how to resolve this. The commander of the Allied forces falls silent. This mission is no simple task. Even if they eliminate that group, it would only be 300 men, yielding minimal military merit. I have a plan, a marshal general declares. Everyone turns their attention to him, eager to hear his proposal. We could send people disguised as grain transporters. They will certainly seize this opportunity and act. The transporters will be caught off guard, and we can take advantage of that to subdue them. The marshal general suggests. Others nod in agreement, recognizing the merit in the idea. But what if they do not underestimate us? Wouldn't that be futile? In the rear, Cheng Chumo and the special forces wander aimlessly. My lord, we have searched for 3 days, yet not a single enemy has been found, the special forces captain reports. Cheng Chumo remains silent. Impatience is the flaw of the special forces. No wonder they fail to catch fish. He is unperturbed. No one would be foolish enough to emerge, fully aware that Cheng Chumo and the special forces are present. My lord, why are you smiling? Speak up. The brothers are on the verge of bursting with pent-up energy. If we do not engage in battle soon, they will go mad, the captain urges. Enough of your prattle. I allowed you to wander as a courtesy. Speak again, and I shall send you to Gansu for retirement, Cheng Chumo retorts. The captain immediately falls silent, daring not to utter another word. Cheng Chumo feels a sense of pride. This is how to manage them. Heaven rewards the diligent, and he finally encounters a troop of over 1,000. Cheng Chumo takes out his telescope and observes them from a distance. Look at them, he instructs. The special forces captain retrieves his own telescope. These people are amusing. Do they think us fools? The weapons are plainly visible on the carts, he remarks with a tone of superiority. Do you think they might be transporting weapons? Cheng Chumo inquires. It is possible, the captain replies. Cheng Chumo smiles slightly. Are they so naive as to be transporting weapons? He muses. The captain blushes, lowering the telescope, reflecting on how his lord behaves like a child, regressing as he ages. Cheng Chumo realizes he has misspoken. The special forces no longer engage him in conversation. Let them pass, Cheng Chumo commands. Unless unforeseen circumstances arise, those individuals will serve as cannon fodder. Once Cheng Chumo and the special forces engage, the allied forces will surely retreat. The captain, without a word, waves his hand, and the special forces turn their horses in the opposite direction. Cheng Chumo lags behind. In the allied camp, the commander wears a grim expression. That group is indeed troublesome. Have the documents from the Arabs arrived yet? How long has it been? He demands. An Arab general shakes his head, indicating they have not yet arrived. After so much time, you still do not know which segment of our rear is the Tang army? The efficiency of your Arab forces is truly concerning, the commander mocks. Such matters cannot help but infuriate him. Among these nations, only the Arabs have dealt with the Tang. Even having invaded them, they should know the Tang well. At such a time, they ought to proactively provide intelligence. Calm down. I believe the information is on its way. The Arab general responds. The commander sneers coldly. Do not think I am unaware of your intentions. Why is it that the Arab main forces are absent from the allied forces? Are you waiting for us to exhaust each other against the Tang, only to swoop in and take advantage? The commander speaks with a chilling tone. He is extremely incensed. He has seen the Arab main forces, equipped with many cannons, clearly capable of contending with the Tang army. There is no need for them to hide their strengths at this moment. I give you Arabs 3 months. If, after 3 months, you cannot provide full support, prepare to face the Tang alone, the commander declares. The Scorpions may hold off the Tang forces for a maximum of 3 months. After that, they will starve, as such a concentration of Scorpions requires substantial sustenance. The Arab general nods submissively, yet internally, he remains unconvinced. If the commander were capable of winning battles, he would have done so by now. But it is evident he cannot, he thinks. After 3 months, the leadership will undoubtedly change. The assembly of generals disperses unhappily. At this moment, internal conflicts are understandable. When poverty strikes, even a couple's joy is diminished. Following a series of defeats, the leaders of the allied forces have already begun to express dissatisfaction. Upon returning to his tent, the Arab general's countenance darkens. A general from a small nation sitting atop him is a source of great indignation. The Arab Empire is not comparable to those lesser nations. Why should they hold such authority over me? He muses. Very well, if that is the case. Do not blame me for being ungracious. The Arab general begins to draft a letter, intending to impeach the commander and urge the king to exert pressure on the other nations. You must deliver this letter to the royal city, ensuring it reaches the hands of the king personally, the Arab general instructed. His trusted aide departed with the message. However, misfortune befell the aide, as he was intercepted by special forces. Upon encountering the elite soldiers, the aide felt tears welling up in his eyes. How could such a luck befall him? If you dare to flee, I shall execute you, Cheng Chumo declared in Arabic. The aide stood frozen, paralyzed with fear. Spare me, noble warrior, spare me, he pleaded. Enough of your prattle. State your purpose, the captain of the special forces demanded. I am a deserter. I do not wish to fight against the Tang dynasty. I wish to return, the aide confessed. Cheng Chumo shot him a piercing glance, sensing the deception. He signaled to the captain, who then advanced and began to rain blows upon the aide. The aide clutched his head in defense. Growing impatient, the captain drew his Tang saber and pressed it against the aide's throat. Fear gripped the aide's heart. Death seemed imminent. Will you speak? The captain pressed, gritting his teeth. The aide cast a glance at the gleaming blade. I am delivering a letter for the Arab general, he finally admitted, hoping that the contents of the letter were not of a military nature and would spare him. The captain rummaged through the aide's garments and retrieved a letter, kicking him aside before presenting it to Cheng Chumo. Chapter 449. You shall proceed. Thus Cheng Chumo was utterly unfamiliar with Arabic script, only recognizing Arabic numerals. The letter bore none. Read it, he instructed, handing the letter back to the captain. The captain passed it to the aide, who understood the unspoken command and began to read aloud. Though Chung Chumo could not decipher the words, he grasped the general meaning. A smile crept upon his face. It seemed the coalition forces were already faltering. One cannot escape machinations, particularly when confronted with the allure of power. Do you wish to live or die? Chung Chumo inquired, fixing his gaze upon the aide. The aide's face lit up with joy as he knelt, thinking that he would do anything to survive. Those who rise to the rank of trusted aides are often shrewd and skilled in navigating complex situations. They possess both merits and flaws. While they execute their master's commands adeptly, their loyalty is often questionable. Chung Chumo chuckled, realizing that matters had become manageable. Rise, he commanded. The captain looked at Chung Chumo in confusion, uncertain of his intentions. Chung Chumo offered no explanation, intending to accompany the aide once more to the royal city, to orchestrate an internal upheaval. Even if he could not alter the course of the war, he would take vengeance upon several high-ranking officials. The party set forth, with the aide ensconced among the special forces. Suddenly, Shin Xian's eyes widened as he recalled a certain individual and a particular unit, Chung Chumo and his special forces. You are special forces? The aide asked. Chung Chumo did not shy away from the truth. You are correct. We are indeed special forces. You may inform your king of our presence, but you shall surely meet your demise. Do not doubt it. There was no need for subterfuge. The aide had clearly deduced something, prompting his inquiry. A month later, Chung Chumo accompanied the aide to a fortified city. Cannons adorned the battlements. As anticipated, this was indeed a stronghold under Arab command. Chung Chumo turned to the aide. You may enter alone. I shall wait for you ahead. He departed with the special forces, not casting a backward glance. The aide felt a chill in his heart. What audacity it took to allow him to venture into the city alone. Did Chung Chumo not fear that the soldiers within might turn against him? Chung Chumo indeed harbored no such fears. He was well versed in this style of warfare. In the face of the enemy's advance, one must retreat. When they retreat, one must disrupt them. Special forces must cling to the enemy like a stubborn adhesive, striking unexpectedly when they are weary. The aide met with the commander of the garrison. Outside the walls stands Chung Chumo, he informed. After much deliberation, he resolved to disclose this to the garrison commander, doubting that Chung Chumo and his 300 men could possibly match the tens of thousands of defenders. The commander was initially taken aback. The Tang army has arrived? He exclaimed, seizing his weapon and charging out, calling for a retreat. The Arab soldiers swiftly assembled, their movements precise and professional, as if they had rehearsed numerous times. The aide stood dumbstruck, regretting his revelation of Chung Chumo's presence. This was no ordinary garrison. They were merely a flock of frightened birds. What would happen when the Tang army truly arrived? They might very well surrender and turn against the Arabs. Such a possibility was all too real. The commander ascended the battlements to ascertain whether the Tang forces had encircled the city and from which direction he could flee. The area outside appeared desolate. The commander's expression darkened. Where was the Tang army? The aide was brought to the battlements. Where's the Tang army? The commander demanded. The aide offered a wry smile. He had mentioned Chung Chumo, not the Tang army. How could this commander be so obtuse? I am referring to Chung Chumo. The aide clarified. The commander peered into the distance, spotting the 300 soldiers regrouping. You mean those people? The commander asked, pointing toward Chung Chumo's location. The aide nodded. The commander's face brightened with elation. Such a small contingent would surely yield military glory. Come, let us charge forth and capture them alive, he ordered. Without waiting for the aide to respond, the commander departed with his men, leaving the aide alone atop the battlements. As he watched the commander lead a mere 1,000 soldiers out of the city, the aide's heart sank. He opened his mouth, wishing to warn the commander. But no sound emerged. He resigned himself to fate. How could such a commander contend with the Tang forces? It was a farcical notion. The outcome was a foregone conclusion, and he could already envision the commander's demise as well as his own. In the distance, Chung Chumo lowered his binoculars. They are underestimating us, he remarked, preparing for battle. Without needing further instruction, the special forces formed ranks and drew their Tang sabers. The restless warhorses stomped the ground, their heads bobbing. Had it not been for the soldiers holding their reins, they would have already charged forth. The enemy approached swiftly, the distance narrowing to a mere 500 meters. The captain unsheathed his Tang saber and pointed forward. Instantly, the warhorses surged ahead. Chung Chumo, unwilling to be outdone, joined the charge. The Tang dynasty has come to deliver us provisions. Today, I shall slay you all, the Arab general proclaimed, leading the charge. On the city walls, the aide shook his head. Such a commander was clearly not of sound mind. Immediately, the confidant witnessed a scene that would forever be etched in his memory. The two armies had just clashed, and the Arab cavalry fell like wheat before the scythe, collapsing in droves. The commanding officer's shouts resounded clearly, but in mere moments. A special forces soldier had dispatched one of his men. The confidant shuddered, his eyes wide with fear as he beheld the carnage. Witnessing 1,000 men topple from their mounts, an old soldier on the city walls stared in astonishment, muttering the name of the legendary 18 riders of Yin Yun. This veteran, a Turk who had settled among the Arabs, was a harbinger of death from the northern steppes, a nightmare for all. He turned and fled, prompting the soldiers on the walls to follow suit. There existed an unspoken rule among the troops. Whatever the veteran did was right. For those who wished to survive must heed the wisdom of the old. The defending soldiers abandoned their weapons and ran, and the Arabs in the streets, witnessing the retreat, hastily gathered their belongings and fled. The confidant, however, did not flee. He understood that he could not outrun a horse, and that Cheng Chumo would not spare him. Cheng Chumo arrived at the foot of the city. "Get down," commanded the special forces captain. The confidant descended from the battlements and stood before Cheng Chumo. "I was wrong," he confessed, kneeling on both knees, presenting an appearance of fearlessness. "Continue to act as you have. It is commendable, and I have faith in you," Cheng Chumo replied. The confidant was taken aback. "Continue to act this way?" He looked up at Cheng Chumo and grasped the implication. This was a thirst for blood, a desire to kill again. Rising, he turned his gaze toward the city. It lay desolate, with soldiers and civilians alike having fled. Capturing a city with such ease made him ponder that he too would have acted similarly if in Cheng Chumo's position. "If you continue this way, you will survive. And should you perform admirably, when I conquer Arabia, you shall be the ruler here," Cheng Chumo added. The confidant gazed intently at Cheng Chumo, his eyes ablaze with ambition. Such temptation was impossible to resist. This was how traders were born. To ensure a horse runs swiftly, one must provide it with fodder. The same applies to traders. Only by offering them sufficient rewards can they become steadfast collaborators. This reminded him of a film. "You all say I am Wang Duiyu's dog. Today, I shall show you that being a dog is not so bad." There was no alternative. The rewards offered were too generous. "Mount up. Our next destination awaits," Cheng Chumo instructed. The confidant promptly mounted his horse, and the procession continued onward. "Master, this fellow possesses a rebellious spirit. We should eliminate him and find someone else," suggested the special forces captain. The confidant's eyes widened in disbelief at such open disdain. He wanted to explain that he was not rebellious. The captain shot him a fierce glance, causing the confidant to swallow his words. "You make a valid point. He still has utility. When he becomes useless, you will be responsible for handling him," Cheng Chumo stated. The confidant felt a chill run down his spine. Just moments ago, he had been contemplating how to become the king of Arabia, and now he was faced with the prospect of being eliminated. As adults, the confidant understood Cheng Chumo's intent. To become a player in the game, one must first be a pawn. Only those of value can aspire to be pawns. The confidant currently held value and could potentially become a player in the future. How to maintain this value depended on his actions. Cheng Chumo's words conveyed a clear message. To survive, one must be valuable. To achieve greatness, one must create value. Those without value were unworthy of being pawns, let alone players. "Forward," Cheng Chumo urged, squeezing his horse's sides with his legs. The procession began to advance. Days later, they approached a river. Cheng Chumo turned to the confidant. "Do you know the commander of the guarding troops on the opposite bank?" he inquired. The confidant gazed at the bridge before him, recognizing it as an essential crossing. He did not know the commander, as he was merely a confidant. "I can go and introduce myself," he offered. Cheng Chumo smiled. "This one is promising. He is capable of great deeds." "Go ahead, I trust you," he replied. The confidant nodded and rode across the bridge while Cheng Chumo and the special forces remained behind. "Master, we should retreat. That fellow seems unreliable. If the enemy opens fire, we have no place to escape," the special forces captain remarked. Cheng Chumo remained silent and simply turned his horse around. The special forces followed suit. The confidant entered the enemy camp on the opposite bank. The commander was a burly man with a thick beard. "Who are you?" he demanded. The confidant presented his seal for the commander to inspect. Upon reading it, the commander displayed a look of disdain. "The king has decreed that passage is forbidden here. Return whence you came," he declared. He held contempt for the confidant's superior, whom he deemed a mere crony. However, the confidant had come bearing Cheng Chumo's orders, and crossing this river was imperative for him. This was his value. If he could not accomplish this task, how could he ever hope to become the king of the Arab Empire? "Commander, do not be hasty," the confidant urged, producing a letter from his cloak to present to the commander. The commander opened the letter, and after reading it, a cold smile crept across his face. "You are a cunning one," he sneered. "You are right. He is not as noble as you. I, too, find my superior's actions distasteful and am inclined to pledge my allegiance to you." The confidant could see the delight in the commander's eyes, realizing that this man indeed possessed insight. "You are quite remarkable," the commander remarked, "but your allies across the river, prepare for cannon fire." The confidant stood dumbfounded. Any explanation would come too late, as the commander stepped out of the tent to personally direct the soldiers to open fire. The sound of cannons echoed. Fortunately, Cheng Chumo and the special forces had already retreated. From a distance, Cheng Chumo wore a grim expression. This confidant was truly unreliable. This marked the second time he had failed. "Master, I warned you about this fellow's rebellious nature. What shall we do?" The special forces captain fumed. Cheng Chumo seethed internally, regretting the opportunity he had afforded this individual. He vowed to eliminate him on sight. "Wait," Cheng Chumo commanded, deciding to bide his time until nightfall when the winds were favorable for a surprise attack. The special forces captain nodded in agreement. Cheng Chumo gazed across the river, his expression darkening, hands clasped behind his back, fists clenched tightly. After the cannonade, the commander returned to his tent. The confidant was on the verge of tears. "This bearded man is truly treacherous. Though he is at odds with my superior, he cannot simply resort to cannon fire without inquiry. He should have at least asked. I suspect they are Tang troops. It is better to kill the wrong man than to let an enemy escape. You know what to do, the commander asserted, having prepared his alibi. So long as the confidant cooperated, those across the river would be obliterated. The confidant felt helpless. Commander, those are all my men, he protested. The commander paused, his face reddening with embarrassment. This was unexpected. Ahem, I declare this a misunderstanding. You should quickly check if your men have been killed, he replied, coughing to mask his discomfort before leaving with his hands behind his back. The confidant hurried across the river, only to find no bodies. A heaviness settled in his heart. It would almost be preferable to have a corpse at hand. He cast his gaze toward the hillside not far off, where shadows flitted about. Quite perceptive, indeed. He mused to himself, as he spurred his horse toward the slope. He found himself at a loss for words, compelled to confront the situation head-on. To explain would offer him a chance at survival. To remain silent would certainly lead to his demise. He doubted that the river could deter the special forces. There would invariably be a way to cross. Upon encountering Chung Chumo, his confidant knelt before him. It's unjust. This is not my fault. That bearded man mistook you for the leader of the Arabs and retaliated in vengeance, he pleaded, praying that Chung Chumo would believe him. The captain of the special forces drew his saber, poised to strike him down. You traitor, the captain declared. Wait, Chung Chumo interjected. He had some inkling of trust. If the man had truly betrayed him, he would not have come to see him at all. Stand and answer, Chung Chumo commanded, and the confidant rose. How many cannons? How many troops? Chung Chumo inquired. The confidant dared not conceal anything, relaying the intelligence he had gathered. 3,000 men and 50 cannons, he reported. Such firepower was indeed at the pinnacle in Arabia. A force of 3,000 accompanied by 50 cannons was a testament to the strategic importance of this location. How do we get across? The captain of the special forces asked. We simply go straight through. I will declare you my men. And the bearded man will not think twice, he replied. The captain remained skeptical. Is the garrison foolish? Would they not consider such matters? The bearded man, however, had not given it much thought. The confidant reiterated, but the captain still doubted. In a state of urgency, the confidant attempted to explain himself for an extended period. Yet the captain continued to shake his head. Chung Chumo remained silent. Even if he were to trust him, they could not proceed carelessly. One must always guard against betrayal. The special forces were unafraid to charge into battle, but if they fell into the enemy's encirclement and were bombarded, even the mightiest would falter under cannon fire. You must return. Devise a way to support us tonight, Chung Chumo instructed. The confidant complied, understanding that Chung Chumo did not trust him. Anyone in his position would feel the same. Do not worry, I will surely get the bearded man drunk tonight, he assured before departing. Following the original plan, they prepared for a night raid. Chung Chumo observed the retreating figure of his confidant. The captain of the special forces nodded in agreement. They would not entrust their lives to a traitor. Chapter 451. The bearded man's surrender night fell. Chung Chumo led the special forces into the water. Gripping a knife in his mouth, 300 men dispersed, swimming toward the opposite bank. Meanwhile, the confidant and the bearded man were deep in drink. General, drink up. Are you tending to fish? The confidant jested. The bearded man erupted in fury. It was the first time anyone had spoken such words at the table. His beard bristled, and his face darkened. Whoever doesn't drink is a sea turtle, he bellowed, lifting the wine jar to pour it down his throat. After a while, he glanced at the confidant. Why aren't you drinking? Do you wish to become a sea turtle? The bearded man shouted. The confidant rose, clutching the wine jar. Cheers. Whoever does not drink is a sea turtle, he declared, continuing to drink until he set the jar down. His face flushed with a mix of oxygen deprivation and the harshness of the liquor. He chuckled foolishly at the bearded man before collapsing in a heap. Bah! The bearded man scoffed, disdainful. With such a weak constitution, you still boast? Suddenly, the sounds of battle erupted outside the tent. The bearded man was startled, his mind instantly clearing. Seizing a large blade, he charged outside. But just as he reached the entrance, a heavy foot kicked him in the chest, sending him sprawling backward. The blade slipping from his grasp. Terrified, he gazed at the doorway as Chung Chumo stepped into the tent. Who are you? The bearded man demanded angrily. Chung Chumo ignored him, instead looking at the drunken confidant and shaking his head. He turned back to the bearded man. Do you wish to live or die? Chung Chumo inquired. The bearded man snatched the fallen long knife and hurled it toward Chung Chumo. I'd rather die than live, he retorted. Chung Chumo easily dodged, advancing to deliver a swift kick to the bearded man. The bearded man curled up to protect his head, rolling on the ground in an attempt to evade Chung Chumo's assault. The special forces burst in, witnessing their leader pummeling the bearded man, and rushed to take over, continuing the relentless beating. Once they ceased, the bearded man lay battered and unrecognizable. His beard had been forcibly removed, rendering him far more agreeable in appearance. Take him away, Chung Chumo commanded, glancing at the confidant, now soundly asleep. And take that mountain cannon as well, he added. With that, Chung Chumo exited the tent. The night raid concluded. All the shells had been detonated, claiming over 500 lives. Chung Chumo returned to the opposite bank of the river. Morning broke. The captain of the special forces awoke the confidant with a resounding slap. Still sleeping, are we? Get up, he barked angrily. It was he who had carried the mountain cannon back the previous night. The confidant sat dazed, looking around, bewildered. Weren't we drinking? How did I end up here? He wondered, noticing the bearded man, now devoid of his beard. Who is this? How did I come to be here? He queried, overwhelmed with questions. The captain, exasperated, delivered another sharp slap to the confidant's face. How dare you ask? What were you supposed to do yesterday? You were the one who made it worse for us. Just admit it, can we trust you? The captain had never encountered anyone quite so foolish, perhaps not foolish, but rather unfortunate. Just after leaving the camp, he had been cornered by Cheng Chimo. The rear was vast, and he had unwittingly crossed paths with Cheng Chimo, a stroke of ill fortune. In the first city, he had betrayed Cheng Chimo, believing it would save him, only to find the garrison commander was incompetent, leading him back to Cheng Chimo once more. Now, faced with the bearded man, before he could utter a word, cannon fire erupted. Who could withstand such pressure? He bore the brunt of it. Even in drinking, he had been outmatched. What more could he do? Tears glimmered in the confidant's eyes as he looked up at the captain. The captain, seeing him like this, grew even angrier, ready to strike again. The confidant shielded his face with his hands. I was wrong, he admitted, fearfully, for the pain had been unbearable. The captain shot a glare at the confidant before turning his attention to the feigning bearded man, delivering a swift kick. Stop pretending. I know you're awake. The bearded man shouted in terror. Often, the most resilient were the foot soldiers. The higher the rank, the greater the fear of death. The bearded man embodied this sentiment. Survival was all that mattered. After the war concluded, he would eat and drink as usual. The captain, having made his point, departed to join Cheng Chimo, expressing, My lord, that confidant is unreliable. I do not trust he can persuade the bearded man. Cheng Chimo smiled faintly as he gazed at the wooden bridge spanning the river. This location held immense significance. It represented the sole retreat for Cheng Chimo and his special forces. Should Wang Cheng's plan falter, they would need to withdraw from this very spot. Without securing this area, Cheng Chimo and his troops would find themselves without an escape. The special forces did not require a do-or-die mentality. It was imperative that this position remained under their control. In half an hour, if the bearded man did not surrender, they would eliminate him and annihilate all opposing guards, Cheng Chimo declared. This was the worst-case scenario. Before long, a trusted confidant appeared, supporting the limping, bearded man. He has surrendered, the confidant announced, a note of pride in his voice. It was the first successful endeavor he had accomplished since aligning with Cheng Chimo. Cheng Chimo regarded his confidant with a sense of appreciation before turning his attention to the bearded man. I believe my confidant has informed you of my identity. If you heed my counsel, you shall become the Grand Marshal of the Arabian forces, Cheng Chimo stated. The bearded man looked up, unable to refuse the terms presented to him. He was not held in high regard in Arabia. Otherwise, he would not have been stationed here, but rather dispatched to various locations to resist the Tang army. The bearded man promptly knelt on one knee. I pay my respects, my lord, he uttered. Cheng Chimo smiled. You are to deal with the opposing guards. Ensure it is done with precision, he instructed. The two men acknowledged him and prepared to depart. Can we trust them? The special forces captain inquired. Trustworthiness is secondary. We cannot eliminate all Arabs, nor is there a need for a genocidal war. The land here is inhospitable for the people of the Tang, Cheng Chimo responded. The citizens of the Tang are agrarian by nature. They cannot be expected to thrive in a desert. It's not that they cannot survive. If they were to occupy this land, the desert would surely cease to exist in a millennium. I harbor no doubt about the capabilities of the Tang people. Their perseverance is akin to that of the foolish old man who moved mountains. Should the Tang people settle here, a new idiom would emerge. Tang people tame the sands. A challenge surpassing that of the foolish old man. Such feats are within their grasp. This delineates the essence of humanity. Some are born to plunder, while others are destined to build. The citizens of the Tang belong to the latter. The special forces captain nodded, albeit with a hint of confusion. This is quite perplexing. Let us wait. As long as the confidant remains unharmed, there will be no issues, Cheng Chimo asserted. An hour later, the bearded man and the confidant adorned the bridge with a crimson carpet, standing on either side. Cheng Chimo arrived on horseback, and the two men knelt once more. We pay our respects, my lord. They had decided to address Cheng Chimo similarly to the special forces, fostering a sense of camaraderie. Upon reaching the military camp, the bearded man asked, when will our forces arrive? When shall I become the Grand Marshal? Soon. Your task is to secure this area, Cheng Chimo replied, amusement bubbling within him. This man was different from the confidant, who appeared earnest yet harbored a rebellious spirit. The bearded man wished to inquire further, but the confidant shot him a glance, signaling him to refrain from speaking. My lord has his own plans. You should speak less, the confidant advised. The bearded man held his tongue. Cheng Chimo did not linger, continuing onward with his confidant. We shall reach the imperial city in 3 days. Do you have any instructions, my lord? The confidant asked. Attend to your duties, Cheng Chimo replied. A few days later, they arrived at the Arabian royal city. Cheng Chimo settled into the same lodgings he had occupied during his previous visit, while his confidant ventured into the city. Cheng Chimo departed the inn alone and arrived at a desolate site, the very place where Li Ji had been slain. With his hands clasped behind his back, he walked through the ruins. An elderly man sweeping the ground caught his attention. He was a Tang citizen. The old man froze upon noticing Cheng Chimo, dropping his broom. Is there still a need for cleaning here? Cheng Chimo inquired with a smile. The old man regained his composure. averting his gaze from Chung Chumo as he bent to retrieve his broom and resumed sweeping. How difficult it is to part from one's homeland. Do you truly intend to remain here for a lifetime? Chung Chumo mused, approaching the elder and scrutinizing him. The old man looked up at Chung Chumo. We have become useless. Why must you make it harder for us? We are merely following orders, he replied, turning his back to Chung Chumo. The old man continued his task. Chung Chumo chose not to disrupt him, observing quietly. As the ground soon appeared clean, the old man placed the broom against the wall and walked towards a relatively intact house. He opened the door without avoiding Chung Chumo. It held no significance. Chung Chumo noticed a memorial tablet inside, inscribed with the words "My Lord." He recognized to whom it belonged, Li Ji's. They could not inscribe his name directly, so they resorted to "My Lord." Their status prohibited them from honoring Li Ji by name. Chung Chumo approached the tablet, and the old man did not intervene. There were neither incense nor candles. Such items were costly in Arabia, beyond the old man's means. You may return home whenever you wish. The Tang has forgotten you. If you have family, you should go back. Soon, the Tang army will reach this place, Chung Chumo advised. With that, he exited the room, stepping out of the ruins. The old man stared blankly at Chung Chumo's retreating figure, tears streaming down his cold, unfeeling face. The significance of companionship was profound. One could lack skills, but must not fail to recognize others. The Li Jingmen were akin to the special forces. Both were equally cold-hearted and unencumbered by attachments. Chung Chumo dared not allow the special forces to confront the Li Jingmen at their peak. Without artillery, he would have no recourse against them. Their combat prowess was not to be underestimated. During the Tang era, they had ensured Li Ji's safe passage out of Tang territory unscathed. Chung Chumo knew better than to press too hard. In Liaodong, they had facilitated Li Ji's escape from encirclement. In the Arabian royal city, they commanded the respect of all the nobles, preventing them from underestimating Li Ji. This was their might. Li Ji had perished, yet they remained to guard his memorial tablet. How fortunate to have such subordinates. How tragic to have a leader like Li Ji, until he could no longer see Chung Chumo's figure. The old man brushed aside his graying hair, revealing a face marked by age. Not far off, there was a well. A figure clad in black, a member of the Li Jingmen, emerged from the well, followed by a multitude of others. Boss, we can return to the Tang. The emperor has declared that we are absolved of our transgressions, one of the Li Jingmen exclaimed, his voice brimming with excitement. The others shared in this exhilaration. Chung Chumo was correct. The ties to one's homeland are profound, and no one wishes to drift away from home. The old man's eyes glistened red. This indeed illustrates the disparity, he remarked. The Li Jingmen lowered their heads, reflecting on their tragic plight, returning to a home that would not welcome them. As they emerged, they slaughtered all their kin. It was an order, and they had no choice but to comply. This is the essence of Li Jingmen. They are without a home. Yet they yearn to return. The Tang dynasty is their true home, where they wish to be laid to rest beside their loved ones, even if they are not forgiven. If given the choice, I would gladly follow someone like Chung Chumo, the elder remarked. Others wept bitterly, not regretting their allegiance to Li Ji, but lamenting the loss of their families. In a certain sense, they felt less than human. A tiger does not consume its own cubs. Who can truly fathom their anguish? Who can comprehend their despair? It is well known that the people of Li Jingmen are fierce in battle, a ferocity earned through the severing of familial ties. Let us return home, the elder declared once more. Over 100 individuals sobbed uncontrollably, their cries piercing the heart, tears streaming down their faces. Whether they would ever return home remained uncertain. Perhaps it was the act of crying for home or the acknowledgement by the Tang that moved them to weep. The elder produced a small piece of gold from his bosom. Brothers, today we shall feast in celebration and offer 3 incense sticks to our Lord, he announced. The gold was no larger than a fingernail. Everyone presented their most treasured possessions. They were determined to indulge in a feast today. Let us drink and be merry. For tomorrow is uncertain. The preparations began: roasted lamb, boiled meat with wine, and even a roasted camel. For the first time, 3 incense sticks were lit before the spirit tablet of Li Ji. The ruins were bustling with life. In the inn, everyone dispersed to conceal themselves. Chung Chumo stated his intent to take action. Special forces, operating in groups of 3, departed the inn. Chung Chumo stood in the courtyard with his hands clasped behind his back. In the palace, a trusted aide hung from a great tree. Shall we speak? A eunuch inquired. He had been seized upon entering the palace. No matter how many strategies were devised, he had underestimated one step. Chung Chumo was not Zhuge Liang after all. The citizens of the city had fled, with some reaching the royal city. They were unaware of the circumstances, but they knew the trusted aide was likely dead. For the Tang army had arrived. Now, with the aide back in the royal city, did they think others were fools? The aide forced a smile, unwilling to mention Chung Chumo or the special forces. I have failed twice. There shall not be a third. The Tang has a saying, once is a chance, twice is a warning, but never a third. The aide chuckled, blood dripping from his mouth. The eunuch wore a cold smirk, his gaze growing cruel. I shall personally annihilate your family and castrate your son, the eunuch said with a chilling tone. The aide's eyes burned with rage as he glared at the eunuch. Remaining silent, speaking would only seal his family's fate. Bring his family to me, commanded the eunuch. The guards promptly exited the palace to apprehend them. The special forces commander was currently at the aide's residence, where over a dozen family members were present. Several children hid behind a woman. Sir, please spare my children. I will comply with whatever you demand, the woman pleaded sorrowfully. The Special Forces commander, his expression dark, had come to prevent the aide's betrayal, never intending to kill. Enough of your chatter. You are not Turks, so why would I slay you? The commander retorted. He understood the words of the women. Yet they could not comprehend his reply, their eyes brimming with tears as they stared at him in bewilderment. Suddenly, the door was kicked open. Furious, the commander bellowed. Who dare seek death? A group of Arab soldiers stormed in. The aide's family was seized, and any resistance would be met with merciless execution. Kill, they commanded. Chapter 453, the plan succeeds. The Special Forces commander sprang into action, drawing his Tang saber and charging at the Arab soldiers. Silently cursing, he realized the aide had been discovered. Nearby, Special Forces heard the commotion and rushed to assist. The Arab soldiers were scattered in disarray. Drums echoed through the city as the Arab forces called for reinforcements, advancing toward the aide's home. The Special Forces acted decisively to intercept them. This was the unspoken bond of the Special Forces. In the inn, Cheng Chimo smiled, stepping outside with his hands clasped behind his back as the cries of battle filled the streets. He walked toward the palace. Before the palace gates, the aide hung from the city wall. The Arab king stood on the battlements, gazing at Cheng Chimo with a complex expression. He had visited the Tang and taken command of the defeated Arab soldiers from the Great Stone Kingdom. This was the foundation of his ascendancy. Now, facing Cheng Chimo, he felt a turmoil in his heart. He despised his father. Had his father not heeded his brother's counsel to attack the Tang, they would not be in this predicament. If I capture you, will the Tang withdraw? The Arab king asked. Cheng Chimo chuckled softly. You have not disappointed me. You have become the king of Arabia. His tone conveyed a hint of approval, akin to a mentor witnessing the accomplishments of a protege. The Arab king bowed deeply to Cheng Chimo. Without your guidance, I would not be here today. Without your support, I could not have ascended to the throne. His respect for Cheng Chimo was heartfelt. 1,000 embellishments do not compare to a single act of timely assistance. During his lowest point, it was Cheng Chimo who lent him a hand. The bonds of kinship are personal, but nations have none. There is no sentiment to be discussed between countries, Cheng Chimo replied. He wished to avoid further emotional discourse with the Arab king. Cheng Chimo represented the Tang, while he represented Arabia. They should have no further intersections. I wish to test if capturing you will bring peace to Arabia, the Arab king stated. As he spoke, Arab soldiers charged forth. Cheng Chimo shook his head. I dare to come, so I fear not being captured. Several special forces emerged behind Cheng Chimo. A tremendous explosion erupted, shaking the palace as the main hall was blown apart. I can provide you with thousands of troops, just as I can deliver a bomb, Cheng Chimo declared. He had supplied the Arab king with 30,000 soldiers. Among these troops, how could there not be those inclined to surrender to the Tang? This was also why traitorous forces were never trusted. The Arab king glanced behind him, realizing both success and failure rested with the traitors. Kill, he commanded, shattering the silence. It was the very prince who had once advocated for the attack on the Tang. Countless Arab soldiers surged toward Cheng Chimo, under the protection of the special forces. He began to retreat, forced back to the inn. The Arab king seethed with rage. How dare you? Do you understand what it means to kill Cheng Chimo? He bellowed. The prince sneered. Eliminating him leaves the Tang without a leader, and their morale will plummet. Stop. Cheng Chimo must not die in Arabia. The Arab king insisted. The prince disregarded him. Cheng Chimo was the cause of his troubles. Without Cheng Chimo, the throne would be his. The sounds of cannon fire echoed. The prince commanded the soldiers to fire upon the inn. Inside, Cheng Chimo remained impassive, accompanied only by a few special forces soldiers, while others fought scattered across various fronts. My lord, we shall escort you to safety, the special forces soldier declared. Cheng Chimo smiled faintly, his hands clasped behind his back as he gazed out at the brilliantly illuminated scene. No rush, he replied. The sounds of battle echoed from outside the inn, as a group of Liangman warriors charged in, laughing boisterously. The elder among them, exuding nonchalance, proclaimed, We possess nothing but our nation, which we call the Tang dynasty. Brothers, if we kill one, we break even. If we slay two, we profit. We have lived enough, ha. Cheng Chimo listened intently, aware that this was not his trump card. That lay in the arrangements made by Cui Wencheng, not with Liangman. He was surprised that the Liangman would come to his aid. Cheng Chimo, heed my words, you promised us our return home. Living is meaningless. We wish to bring our ashes back, one of the Liangmen shouted. Very well, Cheng Chimo responded loudly. Stepping outside the inn, the ground was strewn with corpses. The Liangmen pursued the Arab soldiers mercilessly. A figure clad in black knelt before Cheng Chimo. Everything is prepared, the figure stated. Following him, Cheng Chimo arrived at a secluded courtyard where hundreds of hot air balloons awaited. The Arab king was bound and thrown to the ground, while his confidant lay on a stretcher. The captain of the special forces entered with the confidant's family. Everything is ready, but what about those Liangmen? The captain inquired. In the hearts of the special forces, the Liangmen were respected adversaries. If not for Cheng Chimo's orders, they would have engaged them in battle. Alas, their lord had not permitted it. Cheng Chimo sighed. Let the hot air balloons ascend. It is time to retreat. He had achieved his goal. Capturing the Arab king would surely plunge the royal city into chaos. The Arab king gazed at Cheng Chimo with bitterness. as their counteroffensive plans lay in ruins. The recently assembled army of 1 million would return to the royal city to support the prince in his quest for the throne. Regardless of who ascended to power, the fate of Arabia was sealed. As the hot air balloons ascended, they hovered over the battlefield where the Lijiangmen had fought. A dozen Lijiangmen remained standing, the rest had perished. The hot air balloons descended, and the special forces retrieved the fallen Lijiangmen, placing their bodies aboard. The surviving Lijiangmen wept with laughter at the sight. Ha ha ha, the special forces are collecting our dead, it is worth it. One exclaimed. The special forces acknowledged the living Lijiangmen with a salute. Hilariously, the last of the Lijiangmen fell in battle, and the special forces surged forward to swiftly eliminate the remaining foes. The hot air balloons began dropping explosives. All special forces, bearing the corpses, boarded the balloons, which ascended into the sky. Among them, emotions were mixed. The Arab ministers lamented, "It is over." Meanwhile, the princes were jubilant, for their springtime of opportunity had arrived. Today, the struggle for supremacy among the 9 princes could commence. The 30,000 rebels hastily retreated from the royal city, once loyal soldiers of the king. They now belonged to the Tang dynasty's forces, equipped like no other army, the elite of the elite. This was the reason the king had ascended to the throne. Now, this army was like a dagger plunged into the heart of Arabia, an unstoppable force. Had Shui Rengui equipped this army for this very day? The Arab king gazed at Cheng Chumo's back and pondered. Everything happens for a reason. I never intended to deploy this army. You should not have taken advantage of the chaos, nor invaded the Tang, Cheng Chumo stated. The Arab king fell silent. Had he seized power sooner, the situation might have been different. You are incompetent. After becoming king, you failed to eliminate those princes who opposed you, and that is why you find yourself captured today. You are unfit to rule, Cheng Chumo asserted. He had not considered killing him. If the Arab king could not be the true sovereign, he would serve as a puppet. How many nations will Arabia become? The Arab king inquired. 10, Cheng Chumo replied. Chapter 454. The decapitation concludes. The hot air balloons soared beyond the city and reunited with the 30,000 rebels. Upon landing, Cheng Chumo exited the tent. The 10 leaders of the rebel forces approached. Kneeling on one knee, "We pay our respects to the Supreme Emperor. The 10 disciples of the Firehead Army have successfully completed their mission," they proclaimed in unison. "Rise. You have done well," Cheng Chumo responded. The 10 rose, their faces alight with excitement as they gazed at Cheng Chumo. They were all disciples of Shui Rengui's Firehead Army. All Arabs. The Arab king smiled bitterly. He felt unjustly defeated. The 10 generals he had once taken pride in were disciples of Shui Rengui. He had not anticipated that the renowned heroes of Arabia were inferior to the disciples of the Firehead Army. The captain of the special forces delivered a kick to his rear. "You know nothing of the Firehead Army," the captain retorted, feeling it necessary to enlighten the fool about the Firehead Army's prowess. When special forces face the Firehead Army one-on-one, there are wins and losses, the captain explained. The Arab king remained skeptical, having witnessed the Firehead Army, but finding them unimpressive. The special forces had no desire to explain further. When Shui Rengui resolved his son's issues and arrived here, he would comprehend the true nature of the Firehead Army. To the ferry, Cheng Chumo commanded. The 10 generals knelt in acknowledgement. The 30,000 rebels surged toward the ferry. Cheng Chumo turned to the Arab king. "Do you think your ministers will come to pursue you?" he asked. The Arab king nodded, confident there were loyal subjects among his ranks who would attempt a rescue. Cheng Chumo smiled. "Let me share an interesting tale. There is a legend of an enemy nation that abducted an emperor but did not kill him, waiting instead for someone to rescue him. A renowned general fought valiantly against the enemy, on the verge of rescuing the emperor, when he received 12 imperial edicts summoning him back to the capital, where he was subsequently killed. Why do you think he met his demise?" Cheng Chumo inquired. The Arab king understood. 2 tigers cannot coexist on the same mountain. Those in power will not allow a former emperor to return. How would the land be divided then? Thus, no matter how formidable that general was, his intentions were misguided. Though he was loyal, his allegiance was misplaced. When a new emperor rises, new ministers follow. He did not grasp the situation. Had he secretly conspired with the emperor to eliminate the former emperor once the enemy was vanquished, his fate would have been different. He would have become the new emperor's confidant, a supreme commander of the nation's forces. The new emperor would have summoned him back for one reason, to utter a phrase that would assure the new emperor's reign. It is not about lofty ideals of loyalty and patriotism. Many profess loyalty and patriotism, but your duty is to preserve the new emperor's rule. After the new emperor painstakingly vanquished the enemy nation, he found himself without a throne. Was this not akin to a blind man lighting a lamp, a futile endeavor? Was he merely sewing garments for others? How foolish. Such selflessness is remarkable. What defines a gentleman? A gentleman is one who remains true to his heart, not merely performing for the eyes of others. In a world where 1,000 mouths speak, there exist 1,000 versions of oneself, which can only lead to disaster. And what of the petty man? The petty man bears the burden of blame. Those who employ unsavory methods and incite discomfort in others are indeed petty. Su Jingzong, the most sycophantic minister of the Tang dynasty, epitomizes such pettiness. After Cheng Chumo appointed him as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, criticism ceased, and the populace praised his actions, declaring them commendable. This was indeed a position suited to him. As long as one benefits their own, they are deemed a gentleman. If one brings harm without a trace of advantage to their own, they are a petty individual. There is no turning back now. The Arab king reflected on Cheng Chumo's words, a faint smile gracing his lips, not entirely foolish after all. Let us proceed. I have envisioned your destiny. The Arab world is vast, and you are its rightful ruler. Your future will be filled with responsibilities, Cheng Chumo remarked. The Arab king widened his eyes in disbelief. A vast realm? Does that not mean a chaotic struggle among warlords? If the Tang dynasty continues to meddle, peace will forever elude the Arabs, and enmity will only deepen. This is the current state of the Middle East. To forge collaboration, one must relinquish hatred. Can they truly set aside their grievances? It seems impossible. Blood feuds and ancestral enmities abound. Days later, the caravan returned to the crossing. The bearded man, upon seeing Cheng Chumo approach alongside the king, was taken aback. What was the situation? Gritting his teeth, he knelt before the king. I pay my respects, your majesty. Cheng Chumo turned to the Arab king, who wore a bitter smile. Why? The king inquired. The bearded man lifted his gaze, glaring at the Arab king with fury. Do you not think I am more capable than this general? You would have me merely guard the crossing? Your judgment is indeed lacking, he retorted, leaving no room for courtesy. With a sense of satisfaction, he stood and approached Cheng Chumo. Your majesty, please, he urged. Cheng Chumo stepped forward, leaving the Arab king standing alone, feeling out of place. Within the tent, the bearded man presented the frontline reports to Cheng Chumo. Your majesty, these are the reports from the front, he stated, having overseen every piece of information. Cheng Chumo perused the documents while the bearded man prepared a meal. One report caused Cheng Chumo to furrow his brow. The scorpions had been cleared. A group of unknown individuals had volunteered to assist. They were neither doctors nor Tang soldiers, but they were identified as Tang people. Cheng Chumo frowned, contemplating inquiring with Wang Xuanzi upon their next meeting. He picked up another report, puzzled that these Tang individuals sought the corpses of Arab soldiers. Cheng Chumo felt increasingly uneasy. What purpose could those corpses serve? He suspected someone intended to exploit the remains, reminiscent of the practices in Xiangxi. The Special Forces captain, standing behind Cheng Chumo, spoke up. How much do you really know about Xiangxi? Do you think they engage in corpse transportation? Cheng Chumo replied. The captain scratched his head, admitting his limited knowledge. Your majesty, do not question me. Once the war concludes, we shall investigate, he suggested. Cheng Chumo turned to the captain, impressed by his insight into the war's imminent conclusion. War is indeed a lucrative venture, and the strategic intent this time is straightforward. The remaining task is to negotiate a ceasefire. What are the losses? The captain chimed in with a mischievous grin. What is there to negotiate? He jested. Cheng Chumo laughed heartily just as the Arab king entered, overhearing their conversation and feeling speechless. If you require funds, just say so. Who killed the fortunate general? Cheng Chumo inquired, to which the Arab king replied, Prince Jiao. At this juncture, there was no need for concealment, as Cheng Chumo would inevitably uncover the truth. The king's lineage would be left with none alive. Cheng Chumo remarked. The Arab king remained silent, fully aware of the Tang dynasty's methodology, an example being the Turks, who faced extermination. If the Arabs wish to avoid such a fate, they should refrain from idle chatter. The Tang dynasty has clearly demonstrated its might. It possesses the strength to eliminate all adversaries. Chapter 455. Territory of 1045. The bearded man entered with a platter of lamb. Your majesty, do taste this lamb, he urged, placing the dish before Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo sampled the meat, finding it delightful. You should partake as well. Let us enjoy a drink together. I hear you are quite the drinker, he said. The bearded man beamed with pride, undeterred by anyone when it came to drinking. Very well. Those who do not drink shall be deemed fools, he proclaimed, eliciting laughter from Cheng Chumo. The confidants around them felt a mix of embarrassment and amusement, wishing to hide their faces from the spectacle. Let the martial generals join us for drinks. The defense can be entrusted to the special forces, Cheng Chumo instructed. The captain of the special forces acknowledged this promptly. Soon, all the martial generals gathered in the tent. Cheng Chumo raised the wine jar, declaring, the Tang dynasty is a nation of inclusivity, home to myriad ethnicities. If we embrace you, let it be known that we will not fail you in return. Cheers. He poured the wine into his mouth, and the generals rose, their faces filled with admiration for Cheng Chumo. They respected him for his ability to unite such diverse peoples, for only a dynasty capable of such unity could endure. Such a dynasty is truly worthy of their unwavering loyalty, unlike others that, despite their might, having conquered the European continent, are short-lived. Why is this so? Because they relegated the Han people to a status akin to fourth-class citizens, leading to their downfall. Your majesty is wise. Cheers. The generals proclaimed. After several rounds of drinks, the generals suggested moving outside to drink, finding the tent too stifling. Cheng Chumo nodded in agreement. The generals rose and danced around the fire. Cheng Chumo, feeling jovial, pulled the bearded man into conversation. The bearded man, wishing to partake in the festivities, found himself unable to break free from Cheng Chumo's grasp. Let me tell you, when you reach Chang'an, acquire a property and spend some time there. That is true living, Cheng Chumo advised. And let me tell you, I can even launch you into space. Do you believe it? Cheng Chumo continued to speak animatedly. The bearded man wore a conflicted expression, realizing the Tang dynasty was indeed a multicultural nation. Each ethnicity had its own unique characteristics, especially the Han, who, when intoxicated, would boast endlessly without pause, even claiming to ascend to the heavens, where the true deity resides. Your Majesty, you have truly drunk too much. There is no saving you now. I must tell you. In the Grand Tang Dynasty, there exists a weapon capable of obliterating vast expanses of land. Do you believe it? Chen Chimo remarked. The bearded man nodded vigorously. I believe. Indeed. But Your Majesty, might I request to dance instead? I truly wish to refrain from your boastful tales. The bearded man could not help but exclaim. Nonsense. When have I ever boasted? I am merely speaking the truth. If I were to boast, it would be better left unmentioned. The Tang Dynasty does not permit such folly. Chen Chimo replied. The bearded man's eyes widened in terror. Is the sovereign truly going to boast? Just the thought is nauseating. He struggled to free himself from Chen Chimo's grasp. Your Majesty, you may boast alone. I prefer to dance, he declared. He was deeply concerned that Chen Chimo might drag him into such ridiculousness. He felt inadequate for such a task. Should he truly boast, he might find it overwhelming. You. Chen Chimo began, but the rest of his words were left unspoken as the bearded man had already departed. Chen Chimo shook his head, exasperated. It was futile, he mused. For even boasting was beyond their courage. He glanced towards the distant Arab king. Come here, let us indulge in some boasting together, Chen Chimo said. The Arab king rose and walked away. How delightful, he thought. Others also avoided Chen Chimo, leaving him to drink alone. In the middle of the night, Chen Chimo's eyelids began to wage war against each other. The warriors lay sprawled on the ground, asleep. Chen Chimo rose and made his way to the riverbank. Zombies. He muttered to himself. The Special Forces captain approached Chen Chimo, aware that his sovereign was still pondering the battle reports. Could it be true? I once heard the old man on the ox say that the heart is the center of the human body, not the head. As long as the heart beats, one is alive, the captain remarked. Chen Chimo furrowed his brow. Could this matter be related to the old man on the ox? Did he possess a method to keep the heart beating even after death? But that is illogical. After death, blood coagulates, and how could it move thereafter? Perplexed, Chen Chimo's curiosity only deepened. Those individuals sought scorpion venom and corpses. Where there is harm, there must also be benefit. Some poisons can thin the blood, rendering it as fluid as water. Such potent toxins, could they prevent blood from coagulating? Yet, how could one ensure the heart continues to beat? What means could accomplish that? Chen Chimo inquired. The Special Forces captain shook his head, admitting he could not keep the heart beating indefinitely. Chen Chimo bounced on the spot, suddenly enlightened. A wave of dizziness washed over him. Perhaps he had indulged a bit too much. Let us rest, the captain suggested, assisting Chen Chimo back into the tent. A month slipped by in the blink of an eye. Today, a multitude of people arrived on the opposite bank of the river. Without scorpions, the Allied forces retreated in disarray. Boldly, do you dare to obstruct the multinational coalition? Do you wish for death? The coalition's commander thundered from atop his steed. Fire the cannons, Chen Chimo ordered. The cannons roared in unison, sending the coalition soldiers tumbling. The commander himself was obliterated by a single shot. The coalition's soldiers began to scatter in panic. Should we not allow these coalition soldiers to escape? Questioned the Arab king. Chen Chimo shot him a glare. You would do well to refrain from speaking nonsense in my presence. In chaotic times, the first to perish must be the hypocrites. Should you dare utter another word, I shall see to your end, Chen Chimo warned. The Arab king fell silent, his face flushing red. He understood the gravity of the situation, yet could not restrain himself. Witnessing his reprimand, the other warriors felt a sense of satisfaction. It was a delightful rebuke. Chen Chimo's words struck a chord with them. The Arab king was indeed a quintessential hypocrite, sparing those who ought to be punished while condemning the innocent, all in the name of benevolence. What nonsense. Now he finds himself cornered. Indeed, your Majesty speaks truthfully. If only you had dealt with those useless princes sooner, we would not be in this predicament today. The bearded man asserted. The other warriors echoed their agreement. The Arab king's face darkened with shame and indignation. He felt deeply unsatisfied. Had it not been for the Tang dynasty, the outcome would have been entirely different. He believed he could have managed any other nation. But alas, that was merely a hypothetical. The Arab Empire was undeniably powerful, able to bully smaller nations at will. However, with the Tang dynasty having opened a route through the Great Stone Kingdom, there was no longer a buffer between the Arab Empire and Tang. To usher in an era of prosperity, the Tang must confront the Arab Empire. The conditions for prosperity dictate that no strong nations may surround us. Regardless of whether they are friends or foes, strong nations must be subdued. Even if not annihilated, they must be rendered powerless. Canada has the most authority to speak on this matter. It is a nation stripped of its military autonomy. Korea is divided into North and South, and Vietnam narrowly avoided a similar fate. The military presence in Myanmar is pervasive. The ongoing skirmishes between Pakistan and India are trivial. Presently, only India remains a nuisance. Dealing with India is straightforward. Its caste system and multitude of languages are bewildering. Their weaponry is diverse, and during the counteroffensive, India was already faltering. Delhi has transformed into New Delhi. The territory of the Huaxia is 1045. Do not forget this. It is no longer merely 960,000. Chapter 456. The coalition's annihilation. The soldiers, caught in the chaos, scattered in retreat. But where could they truly run? The Tang army relentlessly pursued them from behind. Within a day, the Tang forces would arrive, leaving the coalition no chance to escape. Had it not been for the arrival of the additional 30,000 troops, perhaps they would have had a fighting chance. Now, however, that was impossible. Some coalition leaders contemplated surrender. Cheng Chumo would not entertain such notions. He would not relinquish this opportunity to weaken them. After this encounter, those nations that opposed the Tang would require at least 30 years to regain their strength. In 30 years, what might the Tang dynasty become? By then, the Tang would have evolved into a formidable entity. Compassion does not govern the military, Cheng Chumo stated. With that, he turned and departed. The Arab king pondered this deeply. The warriors regarded him with skepticism. They were uncertain of Cheng Chumo's intentions. The Arab king was clearly not a competent ruler. Why did Cheng Chumo continue to tolerate him? Did he still hold any value? Upon returning to the tent, Cheng Chumo wore a slight smirk. While others looked down upon the Arab king, Cheng Chumo held a favorable view of him. A ruler of such character as a neighbor to the Tang dynasty instilled confidence in Cheng Chumo. This was his true motive. Should the Arab Empire have a ruthless and capable monarch, the Tang dynasty would be unsettled. What if the Arab unified? Would there be war? Since the intention was to divide, it must be thoroughly executed. Cheng Chumo would not grant the Arab Empire the opportunity for resurgence. The bombardment continued. Within the Tang army, Wang Xuanzi had already learned that Cheng Chumo was stationed on the opposite bank. The message from the Grand Emperor was clear: eradicate this cohort of enemies entirely. Wang Xuanzi declared. The warriors lowered their heads one by one. Cheng Ming regretted his choices, lamenting that he should have aligned himself with the Grand Emperor to gain military merit. Blocking the crossing would have yielded ample military accolades. Other generals secretly admired Cheng Chumo for managing to block the enemy across the river. The only person aware of the situation was Wang Xuanzi. Those 30,000 rebel soldiers had been trained by Wang Xuanzi and Shui Ringgui, and now their training finally bore fruit. After annihilating the coalition forces, the remaining battles would be much easier. The war was nearing its conclusion. We shall bombard them. No enemy shall be spared, commanded Wang Xuanzi. All the generals complied and prepared to depart. A soldier approached, inquiring, the commander wishes for the bodies. Should we give them or not? Wang Xuanzi, without hesitation, replied, we may offer them the bodies of the coalition forces, but our Tang soldiers' remains must remain untouched. The soldier departed, and Wang Xuanzi took out his telescope to gaze into the distance. Let us launch the final assault in a few days, he mused. Now was not the time to rush. The coalition forces were akin to cornered beasts. An attack now would surely provoke desperate resistance, leading to excessive losses. It was wiser to pursue victory with steadiness. After all, the demise of the coalition was merely a matter of time. 3 days later, Cheng Chumo observed the opposing bank with an expression of concern. What is Wang Xuanzi thinking, not launching an attack? Someone, go inform him that the enemy commander is dead and he must act swiftly. Cheng Chumo commanded. A special forces soldier responded affirmatively, taking to a hot air balloon towards the Tang army camp. Upon landing, he sought out Wang Xuanzi, who was intently surveying the battlefield, noting the enemy's disarray. Like headless flies, just as confusion reigned, the special forces soldier entered, stating, I have seen Commander Wang. My superior has instructed me to inform you that the coalition commander has fallen. You must act quickly. Realization dawned on Wang Xuanzi. No wonder the coalition is fighting in disarray. Inform my superior that we shall attack today. That day, the cannon fire ceased, and Wang Xuanzi ordered the assault. 800,000 Tang soldiers advanced smoothly, facing a defeated enemy of mere hundreds of thousands, with no suspense involved. Days later, the battle concluded, and Wang Xuanzi approached the opposing bank. I pay my respects to the Grand Emperor, he announced. Cheng Chumo shot him a glare, to which Wang Xuanzi responded with a smile. Your Majesty, I did not know you had already eliminated the coalition commander. Had I known, I would have attacked immediately. Wang Xuanzi surmised that Cheng Chumo was upset over his delayed assault. This is not your fault. I did not send anyone to inform you, Cheng Chumo replied. Are those seeking the body still around? He queried. Wang Xuanzi shook his head, explaining that those individuals had helped dispose of the scorpions before seeking the bodies. They requested only 100 each time, which Wang Xuanzi had not refused, considering their significant assistance. Those individuals are quite commendable. They aided us with all the scorpions. Wang Xuanzi remarked. Cheng Chumo furrowed his brow, sensing something amiss. Did Dr. Sun not want those scorpions? He inquired. No, the doctor left with them, Wang Xuanzi replied. Cheng Chumo's intuition stirred. There were few things capable of attracting the doctor, indicating a hidden secret. You must continue the offensive against Arabia. The 9th prince must be eliminated. And Arabia must be divided into 10 nations, Cheng Chumo instructed. Wang Xuanzi complied, having already contemplated these matters. Eliminating the 9th prince was a means of avenging the general and providing justice for the common folk. The downfall of Arabia was crucial for the stability of the Tang. Such invasions could never be tolerated again. After Cheng Chumo concluded, he departed, heading towards the carriage where Li Lizzie awaited, having not followed Sun Simiao. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, Li Lizzie's spirits lifted. Has the prince missed me lately? She asked. Cheng Chumo opened his arms, and Li Lizzie leapt into his embrace, wrapping her arms around his waist. After a moment of intimacy, she remarked, my prince, Dr. Sun's companions are rather fearsome, neither human nor ghost. I dared not follow them back. Her face paled slightly, still shaken by the experience. Chung Chumo probed for details, and Li Lizzie whispered, as though divulging a frightful tale. Chung Chumo frowned. It seemed someone was plotting something. Li Lizzie nodded vigorously, fully agreeing with his assessment that someone was indeed scheming. How many bodies did they take? Chung Chumo inquired. Li Lizzie's expression turned serious as she raised a finger. 1,000. Chung Chumo guessed. Li Lizzie shook her head. Over 10,000, she revealed. Chung Chumo's heart sank. Such an occurrence wouldn't arise without cause. He pondered their intentions, worried whether Wu Zetian would manage to handle any ensuing fallout. While she could placate influential figures, she might struggle with someone like Long Gui or Sun Simiao. Even her master, Yuan Tiangang, might not be able to quell such a situation. Shall we return? Li Lizzie asked. Chung Chumo nodded. Wang Xuanzi can handle the remaining matters. Let us return and see what has transpired, as we have been out for nearly 2 years, he stated. Chapter 457. The war concludes, and we return. Li Lizzie had long grown weary and yearned for home. My prince, let us depart swiftly, she urged. Changsun Wuqing, nearby, stifled a laugh, aware of Li Lizzie's intentions to report Chung Chumo's actions after his recent injury. All right, Chung Chumo said, stepping into the carriage. Leaving all affairs to Wang Xuanzi. Wang Xuanzi and the generals watched from a distance as the special forces escorted the carriage away. They had pressing matters to attend to and could not see Chung Chumo off. Wang Xuanzi bowed in the direction of Chung Chumo's departure, followed by the other generals. The soldiers, witnessing their commander, mirrored the gesture. The war drums resounded, heralding the Grand Emperor's return to the capital. Soldiers began to chant in unison, and Chung Chumo, seated within the carriage, listened keenly, a smirk forming on his lips. What a turnabout. They once deemed me a hindrance, huh? Chung Chumo's spirits lifted. Li Lizzie leaned closer. My prince, how impressive. 800,000 soldiers salute you in unison. You are the first in history, she proclaimed. Chung Chumo laughed heartily, acknowledging her words. Throughout history, countless scholars and warriors had existed, yet only he commanded 800,000 soldiers. Changsun Wuqing, however, held a different view, gazing at Chung Chumo with admiration. Entrusting such a large force to Wang Xuanzi required immense courage. If Wang Xuanzi were to rebel, what could the Tang do in response? Who can withstand an army of 8 million? The very thought is terrifying. No strategy, no matter how ingenious, can alter the outcome. A month after Chung Chumo departed, the Arab Empire found itself devoid of formidable defenses. The colossal army advanced relentlessly, and the so-called mightiest city of the Arabs fell within a day. The 9th prince was brutally slain by the son of a fortunate general. Wang Xuanzi contemplated a retreat. Yet the eyes of the martial generals blazed with fervor. How could they cease their assault now? Thousands of military leaders clamored to continue the relentless advance. Nations that had once aided the Arab Empire trembled in fear, hastening to submit their letters of surrender. Despite the generals' yearning for battle, there was no one left to fight. Wang Xuanzi could only smile wryly, realizing the challenge of extinguishing a few nations was indeed formidable. It was no wonder the emperor had departed. There was no longer any reason to linger. Reluctantly, he considered stationing troops, but none were willing. They all yearned to return home, boast of their exploits, and tend to their fields. Who would wish to remain in such a dismal place? Let us withdraw, Wang Xuanzi declared. The army of 8 million retreated, leaving chaos in their wake. The Arab Empire crumbled, fracturing into 10 separate nations. In Gansu, Chung Chumo and his companions returned to their lakeside villa. The women emerged to greet them, some surrounding Chung Chumo with inquiries of concern, while others flocked to Li Lizzie, examining her calf. Wu Shun, filled with sympathy, embraced Li Lizzie, weeping. Li Lizzie, playing along, cried even louder, lamenting, it's all the prince's fault. That monstrous scorpion is larger than my foot. Look. She lifted her skirt for the women to see, who offered continual words of comfort, casting collective glares at Chung Chumo. A chill ran down his spine as he sensed impending trouble. The women surrounded him, questioning, would you have us believe this is a misunderstanding? Chung Chumo replied, but their expressions conveyed disbelief. A piece of flesh missing from your calf? How could that possibly be a misunderstanding? They insisted on having Li Lizzie accompany him outside, demanding, is this how you protect your women? Humph. We are all your women. Do you not cherish us? It seems you take us for granted. This matter is far from over. You shall not enter your room tonight, declared Zizi, her large eyes reddened. Li Lizzie, her dear sister, was the most precious to her. The women began to scold Chung Chumo, each taking a turn. Some stood back, such as Changsun Wuxia and Changsun Wuqiao, who watched from a distance. Changsun Wuxia was filled with concern, while Changsun Wuqiao appeared excited. Chung Chumo has met his match, she mused, recognizing the fierce nature of his wives. Each a formidable force in their own right. She once believed herself quite strong, but realized her folly upon encountering Chung Chumo's wives. They are fierce tigers. You have an opportunity now. They let Chung Chumo into his room, but he can enter yours, Changsun Wuqian teased. Changsun Wuxia's cheeks flushed crimson as she lowered her gaze, tacitly agreeing. Changsun Wuqiao, speechless, wondered if she truly desired such an outcome. The women, exhausted from their scolding, carried Li Lizzie back to the villa. Li Lizzie beamed with pride, relishing the moment, and winked at the brooding Chung Chumo. He could only remain speechless, feeling vexed. After dinner, the women indeed barred Chung Chumo from entering his room. He initially planned to sleep in the living room, but ultimately decided to test his luck. Arriving at the door of the widow Xiao Huan, he cleared his throat and said, "Be a good girl and let your husband in." He had confidence in her, as she was usually the most obedient. "I'm afraid not. Dear husband, you should ask the other sisters. If you come in, I will be in a predicament," she replied. Her face flushed as she lay in bed. It was disingenuous to claim she did not want him, yet her friends would not allow it. No one dared to let Cheng Chumo in, for those who did would face social repercussions in their large family. Cheng Chumo had no choice but to knock on the doors of other rooms. "Zizi, let me in," he implored at her door. Tomorrow's the day. But today I promised the sisters I wouldn't let you in. You should leave. If you don't, I might lose my patience," Zizi retorted. Cheng Chumo, feeling defeated, glanced at the other rooms, contemplating leaving. Just then, he noticed a slight gap in one door. A flicker of hope surged within him. Someone had left it ajar for him. He approached swiftly, gently opening the door and quietly slipping inside, closing it behind him. The room was dark, devoid of light. He immediately leaped onto the bed, embracing the woman within. To his surprise, it was Changsun Wuxia. Her face flushed a deep shade of red, and she remained silent. Cheng Chumo did not inquire further. After their encounter, he surmised the identity of the woman in his arms. "How does it feel?" he teased, attempting to provoke her. Changsun Wuxia blushed deeply. They spent the night in playful turmoil, eventually drifting off to sleep. In the morning, they found themselves trapped in the room. The women glaring at Cheng Chumo with red-rimmed eyes. "Tonight, you shall come to our room," Zizi declared. Feeling quite vexed that they had refused Cheng Chumo entry the previous night, allowing Changsun Wuxia to take advantage. This sentiment was shared among all present. Cheng Chumo exhaled in relief, while Changsun Wuxia hid beneath the blankets, too shy to emerge. The women did not press her. "Get up and eat. I didn't see you so obedient last night. You took advantage and now play coy. Hurry and get dressed," Zizi instructed. Li Lizzie chuckled at the door, reveling in her role as the instigator. Having enjoyed over a year with Cheng Chumo, she felt quite satisfied. Zizi turned to her sister Li Lizzie with a somewhat hostile glare. Li Lizzie quickly turned to leave, determined not to let Zizi catch on. Sister must be doing this on purpose. She enjoys herself outside but doesn't want us to be happy at home. Let us deal with her, Zizi suggested. The women nodded in agreement, lamenting the missed opportunity from the previous night. Such a perfect chance for a reunion had been squandered, benefiting only Changsun Wuxia. Chapter 458. Domestic Matters. Li Lizzie stealthily exited the villa, glancing back to see the women pursuing her. She lifted her skirt and fled, disappearing in no time. The women stood dumbfounded, watching her retreating figure. "Did she run that fast?" Zizi asked. The others stared in disbelief, astonished by her speed, which surpassed even the tigers they had once raised at home. Cheng Chumo descended the stairs, where the women crowded around him, peppering him with questions. "Why did your sister run so fast?" Zizi inquired. Cheng Chumo feigned mystery, opting to remain silent. Yesterday, they had bullied him. Today, the tables had turned, and he held the power. Now, those who performed well would have the privilege of his company that night. "Who among you will accompany me today?" he proclaimed, his tone laced with pride. The women immediately began to act coy. Ultimately, they decided to stick together. Cheng Chumo turned to leave. "Together? Is that a death wish?" "Absolutely not." Just as Cheng Chumo was enjoying a lively conversation with the women, Wu Mingyang entered. "Brother-in-law, I have something to discuss," she said. The women glanced at Wu Mingyang, who had red-rimmed eyes and dark circles, clearly indicating a lack of sleep. "You all continue your chat. We will go find my sister," said Zizi. It was essential to make space for Wu Mingyang, as she was the one who had toiled the hardest at home. After the women departed, Cheng Chumo approached the dining table to eat, while Wu Mingyang sat beside him, picking up her chopsticks. She had hurried over as soon as she heard Cheng Chumo return to Gansu. She had her reasons for returning. "Husband, I no longer wish to continue," Wu Mingyang confessed. After gaining power, she felt it had lost its allure. She envied her sisters who seemed to revel in leisure, while she alone was perpetually busy, too exhausted to speak. Her sisters remained youthful, while she had already begun to show strands of gray. Who could endure such a burden? "If you're tired, take a break. Is there something urgent that brought you back this time?" Cheng Chumo inquired. Wu Mingyang immediately donned a smile and leaned into Cheng Chumo's ear. "I missed you," she whispered. Cheng Chumo laughed heartily, setting aside his bowl and embracing Wu Mingyang. She nestled in his arms, her body leaning back closely against him. "I truly mean it. I really do not want to be emperor anymore. I want to explore the world with you. My sisters have all ventured out with you. I want to join too," Wu Mingyang declared. "All right," Cheng Chumo responded. Wu Mingyang's face lit up with joy as she sat contentedly in his embrace, enjoying her meal. She picked up a piece of meat and fed it to Cheng Chumo, who took a bite. Just as they were savoring their sweet moment, the women returned. Inquiring about Wu Mingyang's hasty return, Wu Mingyang hesitated to articulate her reasons. The women's expressions darkened, ready to reprimand her. Mingyang said she wants to relax. "You can see for yourselves who will take on the role of emperor," Cheng Chumo interjected. The women immediately fell silent, lowering their heads to eat, none daring to respond. "Be emperor? What a joke. No one wants that responsibility, and neither does Cheng Chumo." Wu Mingyang's eyes darted toward Zizi, who was on the verge of tears. "Don't look at me. I won't go. I have too many things to attend to." "Choose someone else," Zizi replied. Wu Meinyang then turned her gaze to Li Lizzie, who smiled back at her. Wu Meinyang promptly abandoned this immature notion. Her eyes then fell on Li Lixian, who instantly became tense. I barely escaped the palace. Don't even think of looking at me. I will not return, Li Lixian declared. After surveying the room and finding no volunteers, she turned to Cheng Chimo. Cheng Chimo pondered, suggesting, perhaps we could leave the position vacant. You can just hold the title while doing as you please. Wu Meinyang nodded, accepting that this was the only feasible solution. After their meal, Cheng Chimo and Wu Meinyang exited the villa. Is there any special news lately? Cheng Chimo asked. Wu Meinyang shook her head. You should ask Zizi. She has a wealth of inside information, she replied. Cheng Chimo considered this, realizing that the Qingyi sect specialized in such matters. Zizi, could you come here for a moment? Cheng Chimo called out to the villa. Zizi emerged, approaching the waterside pavilion. What is it, Prince? She asked. Is there any particularly interesting news from places like Shaanxi? Cheng Chimo inquired. Zizi thought for a moment before shaking her head. Cheng Chimo fell silent. Is it that secretive? Is it possible to locate the divine physician? He pressed on. Zizi shook her head once more. The divine physician vanished upon returning to Gansu. I sent people to search for him, but to no avail. Cheng Chimo was now certain that the divine physician was involved. Send someone to covertly seek out the divine physician, he instructed. With no leads on the people sought, he could only pursue the divine physician, as it was the sole clue available. Where is the burial site of the Li Jing sect's leader? The special forces captain inquired as he approached. Cheng Chimo turned to Zizi, who, with a glint in her eye, rushed back to consult Li Lizzie. Li Lizzie was already privy to the matter regarding the Li Jing sect leader. Husband, they have contributed to the Tang dynasty, so can we arrange for a proper burial? Li Lizzie suggested. She had her own thoughts, and Cheng Chimo refrained from questioning her motives. Very well, you take care of it, he replied. Li Lizzie nodded gravely, hesitating to speak further. You need not explain your actions, simply do what you believe is right, Cheng Chimo encouraged, affectionately stroking her hair. Li Lizzie squinted her eyes, feeling warmth in her heart, reluctant to disclose her plans to Cheng Chimo. She harbored selfish motives, fearing he might disapprove. This was something the Empress Changsun had instructed her to do before her passing. The bonds among the sisters were strong now, but what would happen in the future? Death is inevitable for all. Would their children maintain the same closeness as they did? It was unlikely. Thus, she must prepare. Not only she, but all the other sisters would also ensure their children had a safety net. This was an unspoken understanding among them, as it was simply human nature. Cheng Chimo observed this dynamic, feeling powerless. Where there are communities, there are inevitable conflicts. With more children, achieving fairness would be impossible. They could only take things one step at a time. Cheng Chimo and Wu Meinyang left the villa for a stroll. Have you heard of zombies? Cheng Chimo asked. Wu Meinyang nodded. Of course, I've heard of them. Some say they are a scam, a ruse for smuggling. While those are indeed fake, zombies have truly existed. It has been documented. They appeared, albeit their combat abilities were exaggerated. Wu Meinyang asserted. Cheng Chimo agreed, acknowledging that the combat prowess of zombies had indeed been overstated. I even know how to create one, Wu Meinyang boasted. I read it in a book. It is said to be quite simple. With the right timing, location, and people, one can create a zombie. Well then, I shall take you on an adventurous quest, Cheng Chimo declared. Wu Meinyang's face brightened with excitement, as she had never ventured out with Cheng Chimo before. Perhaps in a month. I just returned and wish to spend time with your sisters. Cheng Chimo suggested. You should really think about how to settle your children. In a few years, they'll be grown. What arrangements will you make then? You don't mean to emulate the aristocratic families, do you? Wu Meinyang broached the topic that Cheng Chimo dreaded the most. Cheng Chimo smiled wryly. Indeed, it is quite challenging, he admitted. Chapter 459. The pinnacle of humanity is creation. Cheng Chimo enjoyed a leisurely half-month in Gansu, during which Wu Meinyang found the most joy. All the new inventions were first utilized in Gansu, some of which Wu Meinyang had never even encountered before. Fufeng County's Cheng Chimo had long since relinquished his ambitions. Nevertheless, the highest official of Fufeng County, the wheelchair-bound Li Bin, continued to send the finest goods to Gansu as long as he remained there. After all, he was Cheng Chimo's man. My lord, are we to depart today? Wu Meinyang inquired. She had grown weary of the novelty. What once seemed intriguing soon became banal. The small generator and the four-wheeled vehicle appeared promising, yet riding in it paled in comparison to the comfort of their horse-drawn carriage. It was simply a matter of being in its infancy, and indeed, it was rather uncomfortable. Let us leave today, Cheng Chimo replied. Upon returning to the villa to bid farewell to the women, they were met with somber expressions. Their discontent was not due to Cheng Chimo's departure. He sensed that something ominous was afoot. Yin Mingyue, Li Lizzie, he called. Swiftly, he ascended to the second floor and entered Yin Mingyue's room. The mother of Li Yu and the esteemed Yin Empress. Younger than Empress Changsun, her health had always been fragile. Yin Mingyue managed a weak smile upon his arrival. Attempting to rise, Cheng Chimo quickly moved to support her. My lord, I am so weary. I may no longer be able to accompany you. Thank you for sheltering us, the orphaned and widowed, and for caring for us all these years. May I ask you for one favor? She said. Cheng Chimo nodded. I will grant you anything you desire. Yin Mingyue smiled faintly, her complexion regaining some color. May I be permitted to enter the Chung family ancestral hall? She asked, her demeanor shifting to one of anxiety. She had come from a different path. Her sister, Empress Changsun, had not been allowed entry into the Cheng family ancestral hall, and she feared she would face the same fate. Yes, Cheng Chimo replied. In an unexpected display of strength, she embraced Cheng Chimo's neck. Thank you, my lord, she whispered, her hands falling limply. Cheng Chimo held her hands aloft, refusing to let them drop, his eyes reddening. The pain of parting, life's most tragic ordeal, was a burden no one wished to confront, yet it was inescapable. Silent tears streamed down his face as he reminisced about the moments shared with Yin Mingyue, once the favored consort of Li Shimin. She had been cast into the cold palace, desperately seeking Cheng Chimo to save her child, trading a treasure for her son's life. Unbeknownst to her, her treasure was empty. In her heart, it symbolized her dowry upon marrying Cheng Chimo. She had longed to bear him a son or daughter. Yet fate had denied her that joy, perhaps due to the limited time they spent together or her advancing age, a regret she carried. Cheng Chimo felt deep sympathy for this unfortunate woman, wed to the enemy who had slain her grandfather, unable to even contemplate revenge, forced to wear a mask of cheerfulness. There was no other way to survive. Li Shimin had deceived her, taking her treasure without her knowledge. She had never considered that if Li Shimin had not discovered her treasure, he could never have cast her aside. How could he have built the Jingzhou mansion atop her treasure? Li Shimin sought to uncover the whereabouts of the treasure of the Nest King. But the clever Nest consort remained tight-lipped. Ultimately, Li Shimin used the allure of the title of Empress to manipulate her. Yet she knew he would never allow her to ascend to such a position. As expected, Wei Zheng intervened, outright rejecting the idea and suggesting that the Nest consort's status in the palace be diminished. Li Shimin did not contest this. From that moment onward, the Nest consort saw through Li Shimin's true nature. He recognized no kinship. Yin Empress remained blissfully unaware, believing that her earnestness would shield her from hardship. Uncontentious, she was relegated to the cold palace, where she ultimately perished. The women entered, tears filling their eyes at the sight of this pitiable woman. Often ridiculed as one who was ample in form yet lacking in intellect, a truth that resonated. Send word to Li Yu, Cheng Chimo instructed. It has been done. Li Lizzie replied. Cheng Chimo lifted Yin Mingyue into his arms. My lord will take you for a stroll, he said. The women wept even more sorrowfully. As they passed Wu Mainyang, Cheng Chimo halted. Mainyang, we shall not depart alone. If we are to leave, let us depart together. If not, we shall remain here. The women nodded solemnly, tears glistening in their eyes as they regarded Cheng Chimo with a sense of gratitude. Indeed, gratitude it was. They were no longer young. In this era, a woman living to the age of 60 was a rarity. Childbirth often claimed lives by their 50s. Fortunately, Cheng Chimo had not fathered many children. Carrying Yin Mingyue, he exited the villa and arrived at the lakeside villa. After placing her gently in a chair, he gazed vacantly at the water's surface. Shall we go? No longer, he replied. In this life, as commoners, what do we strive for until the end? Is it not to have a home? What could possibly hold more significance than family? Regardless of wealth or poverty, we return home for the new year, and we ought to visit home often. Travel? It is better to bring delicious treats to our parents than to be fleeced by outsiders. I have heard the most shameless words. Travel more. See more. I once believed there was wisdom in that saying, but now I regard it as mere folly. Humans must follow their hearts, stay where one finds comfort, and disregard the foolish prattle of others. No one, upon passing, laments, I have not been to that place. I shall not rest in peace. The greatest regrets are often found in familial bonds. What does it matter if one has seen or not seen? Stay put, and let things be as they are. Born in one's hometown, buried in one's hometown. Time has no measure. Li Lizzie approached, draping a blanket over Yin Mingyue's shoulders. I know she is not cold, yet I still worry, she said, sitting beside Cheng Chimo. My lord, all must face death. Yin Mingyue's life has been fraught with suffering. I hope her next life is filled with ease. Cheng Chimo did not respond to this. What do you believe is the end of humanity? He asked. Li Lizzie shook her head, unsure. The end of humanity lies in creation. One day, humanity will be able to create anything, even itself. As long as one does not wish for death, humanity shall endure. I do not believe it. You have said the world has an end. If the world has an end, how could humanity possibly escape? Li Lizzie retorted. Cheng Chimo lifted his gaze to the heavens. Indeed, noble houses have their limits, yet the universe is boundless. 20 years ago, standing in the storm with a pager, I could not have imagined that one day phones could stream movies or facilitate video calls. 200 years ago, while riding in a carriage, I could not have envisioned a time when vehicles would drive themselves. 2,000 years ago, gazing at the moon, I fantasized about the beauty of the moon palace. Yet I could not have fathomed its desolation. The end of humanity is creation. One day, we shall be able to create everything. Chapter 460. The aging of Yin Mingyue. I was mistaken. My thoughts led me to believe in a conclusion, yet I perceive now that my reasoning was flawed. The ultimate outcome of humanity's evolution must be creation. It is possible that we are merely the creations of others, Cheng Chimo contemplated. Li Lizzie listened, her large, red eyes reflecting a sense of confusion. Cheng Chimo ceased his explanations, yearning to glimpse the end of this journey he had traversed. With the passing of Empress Changsun and the demise of concubine Yin, Cheng Chimo understood the futility of pursuing meaningless endeavors. From this moment forth, he would no longer dwell in ennui. He yearned to explore, for he possessed the capability to do so, commanding the mightiest nation of the present age. He was empowered to undertake any venture. Master, Li Yu has arrived, announced the captain of the special forces as he approached. Li Yu followed closely behind. Take a final look at your mother, Cheng Chimo suggested. Li Yu knelt, bowing his head in reverence to his mother, then to Cheng Chimo. My mother once told me that her happiest days were spent in Gansu. Thank you, adoptive father, he expressed, tears streaming down his face. I wish to take my mother back to Yuzhou for burial, Li Yu proclaimed. Cheng Chimo regarded him with scrutiny. Li Yu's expression was resolute. Cheng Chimo furrowed his brow, cautioning, you must consider this carefully. Such matters are not easily dismissed, even for someone like Cheng Chimo. The son of concubine Yin held the authority to decide. Li Yu nodded. Li Lizzie sighed inwardly. She recognized Cheng Chimo's reluctance to voice his thoughts. Your mother's final wish was to be interred in the Cheng family ancestral hall. Li Lizzie interjected. Li Yu looked at his mother, determination etched on his face. He could not bear to part with her. Please, adoptive father, grant me this, he implored. Observing Li Yu's unwavering resolve to take his mother with him, Cheng Chimo rose. Very well, he acquiesced. Turning his gaze towards Yin Mingyue, he pondered. I wonder if you will hold me accountable. Li Lizzie lightly touched Cheng Chimo's hand. He turned to her, and she walked away, sensing she had something to say. Cheng Chimo followed her to a secluded spot. I am curious, why does Li Yu wish to take Yin Mingyue? He was not like this before, Li Lizzie remarked. Cheng Chimo fell silent, recognizing that Li Yu indeed differed from his usual self. Typically, he would adhere to his mother's wishes. Today, Li Yu's actions compelled Cheng Chimo to contemplate further. Could this be related to what Sun Simiao and others have been doing? Cheng Chimo mused. Li Lizzie nodded. The obsession with life surpasses the allure of power. This reminded him of his wise and mighty father. Had his father not pursued immortality, he would not have met his demise. He was his own worst enemy. What do you believe should be done? Cheng Chimo inquired, to which Li Lizzie shot him a disapproving glance. If you want me to be the villain, just say so, why beat around the bush? She retorted. Cheng Chimo felt a twinge of embarrassment. After giving Cheng Chimo a pointed look, Li Lizzie approached Li Yu. Yin Mingyue cannot be taken away. In life, she belongs to the Cheng family, and in death, she shall remain one of their spirits, she asserted. Human nature is peculiar. One's significance often goes unnoticed during life, sometimes even disregarded. Yet, in death, one is invariably acknowledged. Li Yu stood, head bowed, his emotions a tangled web, uncertain of what to say. I understand you have your own thoughts, but your perspective may not be accurate. I simply wish to protect my sister from unnecessary turmoil. Do you comprehend my meaning? Li Lizzie stated. Li Yu smiled ruefully, raising his gaze to meet hers. You are right. I should not disturb my mother. Thank you, he replied, silently acknowledging that nothing could be concealed from his adoptive father. He indeed wished to take his mother back to Yuzhou, as he was engaged in a venture capable of altering the fabric of this world, uncertain of its righteousness. He had initially hoped to experiment with the possibility of resurrecting his mother. However, after hearing Li Lizzie's words, he chose to abandon that thought. Why torment a wretched woman? Days later, the funeral of Yin Mingyue concluded. Cheng Chimo stood in a pavilion, lost in contemplation. Li Yu lingered behind him. Adoptive father, do you have any thoughts on this matter? Li Yu ventured. Cheng Chimo shook his head, wishing to disengage from all concerns and simply cherish time with his family. The Tang dynasty continued to function as usual, regardless of who was present. One must act with a clear conscience. Pursue what you believe to be right. I shall not endeavor to alter your convictions. Your mother is a Cheng. Should trouble arise, come to Gansu, Cheng Chimo advised. Li Yu felt a swell of gratitude, bowing deeply to Cheng Chimo. In the future, refrain from bowing at every turn. We are family. You are no longer a child. Approach matters with greater prudence. Cheng Chimo counseled. Li Yu nodded, departing the villa while glancing back multiple times. Cheng Chimo sat, observing the retreating figure of Li Yu. He chose not to intervene, curious to see how this situation would ultimately unfold. Changsun Wuxiao approached and sat beside Cheng Chimo. What occupies your thoughts, my husband? She inquired. Share them with me. She urged. Cheng Chimo regarded her, seeing in her visage a reflection of Empress Changsun. Changsun Wuxia smiled brightly, aware of the reasons Cheng Chimo held affection for her. She was, in essence, a substitute for her elder sister. In her heart, the bond between them was inseparable. I am contemplating the establishment of schools, Cheng Chimo revealed. Changsun Wuxiao appeared perplexed. Competition is beneficial. My father always prepared abundant delicacies. Only those with commendable academic performance could partake. My second sister always enjoyed the most, while the eldest and third sisters went without, she recounted. Bring forth the people, Cheng Chimo commanded. The captain of the special forces approached. You heard what was just said. Arrange for it to be executed nationwide. Every child must receive an education, Cheng Chimo instructed. The captain acknowledged the order. Days later, the captain issued commands in Cheng Chimo's name. Numerous officials arrived in Gansu, eager to meet Cheng Chimo, only to be met with refusal from the special forces. The master has decreed, simply listen and comply. There is no need to meet him, the captain stated. He conveyed Changsun Wuxia's words to the officials. The captain, having never read a book, found it challenging to relay Changsun Wuxia's exact statements. Moreover, several days had passed, and he could only manage to communicate a rough idea. The master has decreed that all children across the nation must attend school. It is imperative. They must learn arithmetic and know that 9 is the greatest, he declared. Schools must compete. If any institution produces a talented individual, at this point, the captain scratched his head, having forgotten the remaining details. The officials stared blankly at the captain, who felt an urgency rising within him. I truly cannot recall, yet I cannot remain silent. A reward of 10 million for each talent. Yes, that's it. 10 million for each talented individual, the captain announced. The officials were left dumbfounded. 10 million for a single talent? In the Grand Tang dynasty. The officials were struck by a pressing concern. What if 1 million people were to appear? Even selling the empire would not suffice to accommodate them. One officer voiced this apprehension, suggesting a reduction in the sum requested by their leader, as 10 million was not an insignificant amount, especially given the vast population of the Tang. Chapter 461. Returning Special Forces for retirement. The captain of the Special Forces scratched his head, pondering the troublesome task assigned by their superior. You must find a solution. Ultimately, our master seeks talent, he stated. The officials grasped the enormity of the undertaking, realizing that Cheng Chumo was planning something significant. Rest assured, we will accomplish this, they echoed in unison. Upon returning to the villa, the captain of the Special Forces boasted. Everything has been arranged. Cheng Chumo regarded him with skepticism. Are you certain? He inquired. The captain, feeling insulted, retorted. Have I ever disappointed you, my lord? Cheng Chumo darkened his expression, declaring, I look down upon you. And so what? Enraged, the captain glared at him, vowing, just wait, this matter is not over. He turned and sought out the Special Forces members fishing by the lake. Our master looks down on us, he lamented, inciting the others to rise in indignation. Ready to confront Cheng Chumo. Let us approach our master, he commanded. The Special Forces followed their captain to the villa, where Cheng Chumo awaited them at the entrance. Observing the aging soldier's approach. Why do you look down upon us? One soldier questioned. Cheng Chumo feigned disdain, replying, because you cannot outdrink me. Infuriated, the soldiers collectively glared at him. Inside, the women observed the scene through the window. What is happening with my husband? Xiaozhu wondered, noting the streaks of gray in her hair. Li Lizzie smiled softly. Let him be. He is simply in a foul mood, she replied. The women nodded, understanding that Cheng Chumo's disposition was indeed troubled. There is a saying that men are like the heavens, silently bearing all burdens. Fortunately, Cheng Chumo had someone who understood him. Had it been another's wife, there would have been a quarrel. Outside, the Special Forces brought forth ample liquor. Cheng Chumo seized a jar and began to drink at the door. The soldiers joined him. Do you not have homes? Why do you linger at mine? He slurred. The soldiers set down their jars, aware of his intent. He wished for them to return home and enjoy their twilight years. Noticing Cheng Chumo's gray hair, the captain proposed. Let us drink more. His words lacked the grandiloquence of a rousing speech, yet they carried a weight of camaraderie. Let us drink. In the future, cease the violence. You see my gray hair, what of yours? Are you truly stronger than I? You rely solely on your baldness, Cheng Chumo remarked, observing the soldiers' bare heads. A clever facade for hiding their age. The soldiers remained silent, continuing to drink. Words were futile. They drank from dawn till dusk, all becoming intoxicated. As Cheng Chumo lay on the ground, gazing at the stars, he murmured, tomorrow, you shall return home. His eyes glistened with emotion. The captain felt a dryness at the corners of his eyes. Returning home sounds good. We haven't been back in years. I wonder if our children still recognize us. He mused, echoing the sentiment of all the Special Forces. I must tell you something. 9 is not the greatest. There is 10 beyond 9, Cheng Chumo stated. The soldier sat upright, feeling the weight of his words. My lord, you still do not understand numbers. Count the stars above. See how many there are, one soldier retorted. Cheng Chumo chuckled, dismissing the notion of counting stars. Only a fool counts. Do you think there are many stars? He replied, placing his hands behind his head, signifying his refusal to engage in such triviality. The soldiers regarded him with disdain. Our master is beyond help, Cheng Chumo roared, wounded by their gaze. What is this look? Do you know how many stars there are? He demanded, incredulous that these men, who could only count to 9, would grasp such cosmic knowledge. Laughter erupted among the Special Forces as they helped each other to their feet. Take care, my lord, the captain said. The soldiers departed, bantering and laughing. Our master is quite foolish, still fretting over numbers. Such a simple matter, yet we cannot reveal it to him. Cheng Chumo sat up, watching them fade from view. You mountain cannons, he shouted, feeling provoked yet unable to argue back, a most disheartening experience. The women emerged from the villa. Li Lizzie helped Cheng Chumo to his feet. Let us return to rest, she suggested with a smile. Then tell me, how many stars are in the sky? Cheng Chumo inquired, gazing into her face. Li Lizzie stifled a laugh. I do not know. If the stars could speak, I would ask them for you, she replied. The stars can speak, Cheng Chumo exclaimed. The stars are part of the Northern Dipper. The Special Forces echoed from a distance, their voices resonating in unison. Cheng Chumo stood frozen, unable to recall whether he had spoken of stars or the Dipper. The women could no longer contain themselves, laughing until they bent over. They coaxed Cheng Chumo back home. And in the end, no one disclosed the number of stars to him. This was the final riddle left for him by the Special Forces. A puzzle sufficient to occupy his thoughts for a lifetime, a conundrum to count for eternity. Morning arrived, and Cheng Chimo rose. Why are you up so early, brother-in-law? Sleep a little longer, Wu Meinyang suggested. Cheng Chimo obediently reclined once more, as Wu Meinyang nestled into his embrace. Shall we have hot pot today? She proposed. Cheng Chimo nodded. Ah, all you think of is eating, Zizi remarked as she entered the room, casting a large eye at Wu Meinyang before sitting beside Cheng Chimo. Brother-in-law, we shall play mahjong today, she announced. Upon mentioning the game of mahjong, Cheng Chimo found himself intrigued. Very well, today I shall ensure you all lose your private funds, he declared. Zizi's small face contorted in distress. Your Highness, let us discuss matters. I have no private funds left. Would you lend me some? She pouted. Having already squandered her money over recent days, Wu Meinyang stifled a laugh nearby, fully aware that Zizi was utterly inept at the game. Always insisting on claiming the highest scoring tiles, yet failing to win a single hand for days, ultimately depleting her entire stash. You cannot come to me for loans. Cheng Chimo replied, gesturing for Zizi to consult Wu Meinyang instead. Zizi turned to Wu Meinyang, her expression eager. Sister Meinyang, would you lend me 1 million, please? She pleaded, her tone sweetly coaxing. Sure, but only if you let me hold you for an entire night, Wu Meinyang teased, licking her red lips. Zizi shivered at the thought, shooting Wu Meinyang a fierce glare. Not a chance. She huffed, storming away, which only elicited hearty laughter from Cheng Chimo. He understood Zizi's aversion. Every time Wu Meinyang embraced her, she would recount how she had changed Zizi's diapers as a child, exposing her most embarrassing moments. Zizi could never hold her head high afterward. It was simply too humiliating. Yet, she could not deny that Wu Meinyang had indeed taken great care of her. How amusing, Wu Meinyang remarked. Cheng Chimo turned to pull Wu Meinyang closer, her body melting against his. An hour later, as they emerged from the room, they unexpectedly encountered Zizi, who had been eavesdropping. Why didn't you go in? What's the point of listening? Wu Meinyang chided. Zizi shot her a glare, then clung to Cheng Chimo's arm, pouting. Your Highness, they are all playing, so you must lend me 1 million too. I refuse to believe I can't win at least once. She insisted. Cheng Chimo retrieved a stack of bills from his pocket, handing them to Zizi. These are prepared for you, by Wu Meinyang. Zizi's face lit up with joy as she quickly accepted the money and pecked Cheng Chimo on the cheek. This is from Meinyang, he noted. Zizi stuck out her tongue playfully at Wu Meinyang before bouncing off to the mahjong table. Cheng Chimo and Wu Meinyang ventured into the kitchen, where a hot pot had already been prepared by Zizi. Indeed, they remarked in unison, sharing a smile as they settled down to enjoy their meal. Just as they finished and began washing the dishes, a loud, triumphant laugh echoed from downstairs. Wow, 1 million each. Hurry, pay up. Zizi's exuberant voice rang out. She had finally won a hand. Curiosity piqued. Cheng Chimo and Wu Meinyang hurried downstairs to witness Zizi's winning hand, only to find the table devoid of any tiles. It turned out to be a heavenly win, leaving Zizi brimming with pride. The other women looked on at Cheng Chimo with an air of injustice. For Zizi's win was substantial, requiring over 1 million to settle. Hurry and pay me, Zizi demanded, while the women hesitated, especially the young widow, who lamented her lack of funds. The widow approached Cheng Chimo, clinging to his arm with a pitiful expression. I truly cannot afford that much, sob. Zizi, sensing an opportunity, remarked, if you lack money, why not plead with me rather than the prince? Her tone was smug as she recognized the widow's situation, having received much care from her during their time in the small town. Just let me hold you for one night, and you can forget about the money. Zizi proposed grandly. The widow, enticed, moved closer to Zizi. All right, just for one night then, she agreed. Zizi burst into laughter, wrapping her arm around the widow's shoulders. Cheng Chimo could only shake his head at the uncanny resemblance between Zizi's antics and those of Wu Meinyang. You shall not accompany her. I will provide for you, Cheng Chimo stated. The widow hurried to his side, but Zizi shot him a warning glance. How many times can he provide for you? Next time I win. Let us see what you have to offer, she taunted, eyeing the widow with a knowing look. The widow bit her lip, declaring, I shall not play anymore. I will cook for you instead. Zizi was taken aback, realizing the widow had no choice but to remain in the game, as the others would not play with her. I will play for smaller stakes next time, Zizi said sheepishly. Cheng Chimo chuckled heartily, finding the situation quite entertaining, and chose to observe from the sofa. Unfortunately, Zizi's luck seemed to have run dry. She failed to win a single hand, while the widow continued to score consistently. Slowly, Zizi's funds disappeared, and she stared forlornly at her empty money box. I've lost it all, sob, she cried, bewildered by how swiftly her fortunes had turned. The widow approached to console Zizi, who looked up with hopeful eyes. If I spend a night with you, would you give me 1 million? Zizi asked. The widow swiftly returned to her seat, lowering her head in silence, her message clear, no money was forthcoming. Undeterred, Zizi sidled up to the widow again. When the prince enters my room, I will call you. Think of it as a good deal, she whispered conspiratorially. The widow, tempted, cast a glance at Cheng Chimo on the sofa. How many nights? She inquired. Zizi stared incredulously at the widow, surprised by her greed. How about every time the prince visits my room? She suggested, calculating her own advantage. If she invited the widow would feel obliged to reciprocate, allowing them both to enjoy Cheng Chimo's company. Unable to resist the temptation, The widow nodded in agreement and retrieved $1 million from her money box to hand over to Zizi. Overjoyed, Zizi received the funds, ready to rejoin the game. However, upon looking at the other women, she felt a chill. Their gazes were quite fearsome. It was evident that Zizi's plan had been too clever. With pairs formed, they would not have to wait days to play. All eyes turned to Ching Chumo, who felt a wave of dread wash over him. Facing the predatory stares of the women, he sensed an unsettling chill run down his spine. Wu Mingyang let out an unrestrained laugh, while a concubine approached her. Mingyang, shall we form a team? She asked, causing Wu Mingyang's laughter to abruptly cease before she reluctantly nodded. Ching Chumo, feeling overwhelmed, decided to take his leave. These women had truly lost their minds. Breathe in the fresh air and turn to gaze inside the room. The women have resumed their game of mahjong. Ching Chumo shakes his head with a smile as he approaches the place once inhabited by the special forces. All the luggage is gone, and the soldiers have departed. Ching Chumo lingers, reluctant to leave. He sits at the edge of the bed, reflecting on the space once shared with his brothers. Such gatherings are ephemeral. Every individual's life unfolds differently. He whispers a hope for their well-being. Rest assured, I have made arrangements, Li Lizzie replies, taking a seat beside him. What arrangements? Ching Chumo inquires. It's simple. Military personnel come first, she states. Just 4 words that accompany a soldier throughout their life, though rarely invoked. Only in times of war do these words resonate. Military personnel come first. This embodies the essence of a soldier, the esteemed special forces. That is commendable, Ching Chumo remarks. Regardless of its utility, this reflects the nation's attitude toward its soldiers and the respect of its citizens. News from Yuzhou indicates their plan appears to have succeeded. Li Lizzie informs him. They wish to invite you to see. I will not go, Ching Chumo asserts, as he is preoccupied with matters of greater importance awaiting him at home. Chapter 463, Life and Death seen lightly, yet unyielding in action. Then I shall reply and inform him, Li Lizzie states. Ching Chumo is indifferent. He wants to attend, and they may do as they please. With Sun Simiao's involvement, he feels constrained in how to address them. As long as no living beings are subjected to experimentation, they are free to pursue their endeavors. Go teach the children. If they are not educated, it falls upon the parents, Li Lizzie suggests, her expression laden with meaning. Ching Chumo rises to find the children. In the backyard, shaded by lush trees and vibrant grass, a dozen little ones, led by Cheng Xinran, are engaged in learning. Cheng Xinran has matured into a graceful young lady. Tall and clad in military attire, wearing a tilted cap. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo approach, she rushes over to greet him. Father, you've come. What do you think of my little soldiers? She beams with pride. Cheng Chumo finally comprehends why Li Lizzie wore that knowing expression. Only she can speak to Xinran. While the other women indulge her, he looks at the children, all dressed in military uniforms, wooden guns in hand, standing still as statues. As Cheng Chumo arrives, the children wish to complain, but a single glare from Xinran silences them. Cheng Chumo, speechless, observes, your method of educating your siblings is misguided. Reward the obedient and discipline the disobedient. He continues, that is how I manage my younger siblings. My father used to say, disobedience deserves a beating. As long as they breathe. The children stare blankly at him, contemplating the nature of fatherhood. Is this how a father should be? They ponder, preferring a mother's gentle touch. Xinran gazes at Cheng Chumo with admiration, realizing the strength of a father's authority. I lack worldly experience and am unaware of many things. Father, may I venture out for a while? Xinran pleads, pulling at his arm with a playful demeanor. Cheng Chumo squints his eyes, relishing the delightful feeling of having a daughter. Of course, go wherever your heart desires. Remember, when outside, embrace life and death lightly. And do not shy from action, disregard others' opinions. Ouch! Cheng Chumo exclaims in pain as Li Lizzie seizes his ear. Is this how one educates a child? She scolds. Father has already agreed. No need to see me off, Xinran responds, turning to dash away. Li Lizzie attempts to call her back, but she has already vanished from sight. Ouch, it hurts, Cheng Chumo mutters. Li Lizzie smirks coldly, so you can still feel pain. Come with me, let me show you how to manage this. Her anger is palpable. What kind of father teaches his daughter to view life and death so lightly? She questions. No wonder the late empress insisted that Cheng Chumo should not educate the children. Li Lizzie realizes the foresight of the empress. Cheng Chumo is dragged by his ear back into the villa, where the women watch curiously. Sister, why are you pulling the prince consort's ear? Zizi inquires, puzzled, believing her sister's actions to be unjust. Your prince consort told Xinran to embrace life and death lightly. She ran off with her ambitions. What do you propose we do? Li Lizzie retorts, twisting Cheng Chumo's ear. He endures the pain, maintaining a stoic expression. He cannot afford to lose face in front of so many wives. The women stand in disbelief, teaching a daughter to regard life and death lightly. Xinran, already unruly, would surely soar to the heavens with her father's words. Their gazes shift to reproach, blaming Cheng Chumo for his teachings. Prince consort, bear with it, Zizi advises. Not seeing any fault in his words, believing this approach is appropriate for the outside world. Should they raise Xinran to be a docile child? Li Lizzie, incensed by Zizi's stance, glances at the others. What do you all think? She asks. The women are divided. Some agree with Cheng Chumo, while a minority opposes. Sister, do not be angry. The prince consort's success stems from his audacity and grit. Our family cannot rely solely on past glories. We must allow the children to forge their own paths, Li Lixian argues. Li Lizzie shoots her a glare. Does our family still need to forge ahead? She counters, asserting that they do not require it, nor is there a necessity to strive. No achievement will surpass Cheng Chimo's, nor will they ever be as formidable. Is there truly more to pursue? Wealthy families dread the notion of their children surpassing them. What if Shinran becomes even more capable than the prince consort? Zizi retorts. She has a point. Cheng Chimo concurs, eliciting a bemused smile from Li Lizzie as she releases his ear and storms upstairs. I shall not concern myself with this, she declares. Zizi gestures for Cheng Chimo to appease her. Such is the nature of a woman in charge. Any woman would feel this way, considering the contentiousness of Cheng Chimo's educational methods. Cheng Chimo ascends to Li Lizzie's room, where she opens the door. What is it that you want? She replies. Still fuming. Open the door. I wish to speak with you. If I cannot persuade you, I will retrieve our daughter, he insists. Li Lizzie finally opened the door, her demeanor cold towards Cheng Chimo. She lay on the bed, engrossed in a book. Cheng Chimo patiently explained, a family must have a leader. While our family may not need to strive, the younger generation must be fierce and ambitious. Starting a business is difficult. Maintaining it is even more so. Do you know how an eagle first takes flight? It must leap from the mountaintop. If it can fly, it succeeds. If not, it perishes. Li Lizzie set her book aside, tears glistening in her eyes as she gazed at Cheng Chimo. She understood this truth all too well. It was her reluctance that troubled her, fearing for Shinran's safety. I am just worried, she confessed. Cheng Chimo embraced her, stating, without experiencing storms, how can one witness a rainbow? Each person is an independent entity. They must explore the world. Li Lizzie nodded in his embrace. I apologize for pulling your ear, she said softly. Cheng Chimo grinned mischievously, leaning down to nibble her ear, causing her to weaken and exclaim, you pest. Time for dinner. Moments later, Li Lixian called for them from the doorway. Li Lizzie playfully smacked Cheng Chimo's chest. What a disgrace. I didn't even realize the door was left open. Did they hear everything? They hurriedly dressed and descended. The women cast curious glances at Li Lizzie, who felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She discreetly pinched Cheng Chimo's waist, huffing, I never expected you to be this kind of person. The cool Z walked up to Li Lizzie, prompting laughter from the women. After a delightful dinner, Cheng Chimo proposed stargazing for the evening, which met with unanimous agreement. In Liaodong, Cheng Shinran, accompanied by Tianxia, arrived at their destination. Have you found anything? Cheng Shinran inquired. Rest assured, everything has been clarified. They are right here, replied Langmi. Chapter 464. Cheng Shinran in peril. Cheng Shinran's excitement was palpable. To encounter such thrilling events on my first journey away from home is exhilarating. Tonight, we must charge in and see what zombies look like. In this treacherous world, my lord, perhaps we should reconsider. It is wiser to enter with our identities revealed than to storm in recklessly, Langmi advised, with others nodding in agreement. Years had passed, transforming them from youthful men into older figures, their combat prowess diminished. The Tianxia Society faced a conundrum. Following the cancellation of the bad person title, many former members returned to farming. Though they still provided some intelligence, few remained capable fighters. The Tianxia Society had lost its successors. Without new blood, any gang would eventually fade away. Cheng Chimo had no intentions of reinvigorating the society, realizing that a peaceful life was hard to attain. Currently, only a few hundred remained by Cheng Shinran's side. Most of them elderly, some even relying on canes. They no longer needed to toil in the fields, still driven by the flames of youth. They supported Cheng Shinran in her endeavors, though their ultimate goal remained unclear. Uncle Langmi, just listen to me, will you? It's not easy for me to be out here, Cheng Shinran pleaded playfully. The elderly men were unable to withstand her charms, their faces softening with affection, eager to provide her with the best of everything. You should also give me a hug, Longjue remarked enviously. Cheng Shinran, in her exuberance, playfully hugged each of them. These old men, having no children of their own, had followed her since her birth, sometimes conscripted by Cheng Chimo. In essence, Cheng Shinran was their everything. We will follow your lead. Whatever you decide, we shall comply, Longjue expressed joyfully. Cheng Shinran, filled with glee, danced around them, while they watched her with adoration. As long as we have Shinran, that is enough, was their singular thought. They did not dwell on the potential dangers. Who would dare harm Cheng Chimo's daughter in the Tang dynasty? Such thoughts were utterly absurd. That night, Cheng Shinran led the Tianxia Society into the courtyard. The alchemists, who were preparing medicines, were taken aback, staring in disbelief at the group led by Cheng Shinran. How dare anyone intrude here in Yuzhou? A middle-aged man emerged from within. Fuming, how dare you? Who are you? Humph, show me the zombies, or I will flatten your establishment, Cheng Shinran declared. The middle-aged man scrutinized her, inwardly acknowledging her striking appearance. Dressed in military attire, particularly her boots adorned with emerald buttons that sparkled under the moonlight, she was a sight to behold. Curiously, Cheng Shinran wore no mask. Whose daughter are you? Cease this nonsense and leave at once, he commanded, suspecting she had a significant background, likely wealthy. Cheng Shinran, brimming with pride, replied, I learned not to wear a mask from my father, Cheng Chimo. I heard he never wears one, and neither will I. Heroes face their challenges directly. I won't leave unless you show me the zombies. The middle-aged man's face hardened with anger. The subject of zombies was a well-guarded secret, known only to a select few. Regardless of who they were, disrupting this matter was unacceptable. With the support of the renowned healer Sun Simiao, they felt invincible. Seize them, he commanded. 100 soldiers surged forth from the building, all highly skilled. The Tianxia Society's members were swiftly overpowered. You are insolent. Do you know who Our Lady is? Lang Mi shouted before being knocked unconscious. Cheng Xinran's eyes blazed with fury as she glared at the middle-aged man, drawing her tang dagger. I will fight you, she declared, engaging with the soldiers. Though formidable, she was outnumbered, her weapon struck away, and she was captured alongside her companions, imprisoned in a dungeon. Cheng Xinran found herself confined in a room as the middle-aged man entered, hands clasped behind his back, intent on discovering her lineage. Who is your father? He demanded. Cheng Xinran, biting her lip, remained silent. The middle-aged man smirked coldly. If you want to speak, I shall turn you into a zombie. Fear washed over Cheng Xinran, tears streaming down her cheeks. The middle-aged man reveled in his power over her, thinking, a mere girl like her can be easily intimidated. He dared not experiment on a living person, knowing the dire consequences. Word had spread that any such actions would lead to annihilation. Such threats were not made lightly. And he could only speculate who wielded this power, as his status did not grant him access to such knowledge. To him, Sun Simiao's disciples were all esteemed figures. Serve as one would serve a father, or do you have nothing to say? The middle-aged man threatened. Cheng Xinran bit her lip, recalling her father's words as she left. Life and death should be viewed with indifference. Yes, at this moment, she must indeed maintain such a perspective. If her father were to rescue her, it would be too humiliating. Those concubines would ensure she never saw the light of day again. She turned her small head away, choosing silence. Cheng Chumo soon learned of his daughter's capture. The world trembled at Gansu's first roar of fury. Their little princess had gone missing. This was intolerable. In the villa, Cheng Chumo sat on the sofa with a dark expression. If Xinran loses even a single hair, I will raise Yuzhou and annihilate Sun Simiao, he declared angrily. The women echoed their agreement. At that moment, they were united with Cheng Chumo. Do not worry, Your Highness, we can resolve this matter without you getting involved. Li Lizzie assured him. Cheng Chumo felt helpless. He understood that his involvement would complicate matters, as his intervention rarely led to minor issues. Li Lizzie departed the villa with the women, all clad in matching military attire. Order the Li Jing sect to assemble, command the Qingyi sect to gather, and summon the shadow guards. We are heading to Yuzhou. I intend to see who dares to bully our children, Li Lizzie commanded. At that moment, she no longer concealed her control over the Li Jing sect. The other women began to rally their own followers. Soon, tens of thousands had gathered. Cheng Xinran was the Achilles heel of them all. Cheng Chumo observed from a distance within the villa, smiling. This was a good sign. It was clear that as long as Cheng Xinran was present, the women would face no issues. As long as she kept her younger siblings in line, the Cheng family would encounter no troubles. In Yuzhou, Li Yu sat vacantly in a chair, feeling utterly powerless. His adoptive father's daughter, Cheng Xinran, had been captured, by his own people no less. My lord, I only just learned that the one who captured the little princess is of the lowest rank and does not recognize her, an official remarked. Li Yu gazed at the official with a look of despair. Sun Simiao was already on his way. He hoped that the little princess had not lost even a single hair. If she had, Yuzhou would face dire consequences. Not just he, but Sun Simiao would also suffer immensely. Upon receiving the news, Sun Simiao rushed to the scene. Li Yu, you scoundrel! How dare you lay hands on the little princess? Do you wish to bring ruin upon all of Liaodong? Lu Jingzhou charged in with 100 men, unleashing a torrent of anger at Li Yu. Li Yu could only smile bitterly. What good does it do to scold me now? We should pray that the little princess is unharmed. If she is not, none of you will fare well, he replied, having resigned himself to the notion of paying with his life. Cheng Xinran's beauty would undoubtedly stir the hearts of many men, and the consequences were all too predictable. While others understood her esteemed status in Gansu, Li Yu was acutely aware of it. She was of ancestral stature. You are utterly useless. How could you not know that the little princess had come to Yuzhou? What have you been doing? Lu Jingzhou berated him. Exhausted from the tirade, he sank into a chair. It was futile. No words could change the situation now. As Li Yu had stated, they could only hope that Cheng Xinran remained safe. If anything happened to her, no family in Yuzhou would escape unscathed. This was a calamity without cause. The more he pondered, the more furious Lu Jingzhou became. Gritting his teeth, he resolved to take action. Ultimately, this was all the fault of the zombies. I give you 1 month. All sorcerers must leave Yuzhou. If anyone refuses, do not blame the Lu family for being ruthless, Lu Jingzhou declared. The other family heads nodded in agreement. Such matters must never transpire in Yuzhou. Li Yu sighed, already feeling the psychological burden of the situation. What about the divine physician? He asked. He can do as he pleases. It is of no concern to us. Lu Jingzhou replied, cursing Li Yu internally for being foolish. Without Cheng Chumo, he would have perished 10 times over in a year. Realizing further conversation was a waste of time, Lu Jingzhou decided to leave. Let us depart, he instructed the family heads, who nodded in agreement. Li Yu was no longer counted on. Initially hoping to speak with Cheng Chumo through Li Yu, they now deemed it unnecessary after witnessing Li Yu's current state. They exited the government office and boarded a train, heading directly to the small town. In the small town, Sun Simiao and his men had already entered. He was in a frenzy, desperate to ensure that nothing befell Cheng Xinran. If she encountered any misfortune, he too would suffer. He approached the courtyard, only to find it desolate. Where has everyone gone? He mused, hastily making his way to the government office, but found it completely empty. Master, it appears something grave has occurred, a physician remarked. Sun Simiao's expression grew serious. Feeling a premonition, he looked up at the sky. His eyelids twitched as he saw thousands of hot air balloons drifting overhead. One balloon stood out prominently, with a group of women in various attires standing atop it. This is the end, he thought, smiling bitterly. The hot air balloon descended slowly, and the women, led by Li Lizzie, disembarked. Li Lizzie's face was etched with frost. Where is Xinran? She demanded, her voice icy. Sun Simiao smiled wryly, realizing she held him in contempt. Shaking his head, he noted the growing storm on Li Lizzie's face. Zizi, with wide eyes, attempted to speak, but was silenced by Li Lizzie. We will discuss this once we find Xinran, Li Lizzie stated. Search, Zizi commanded. And the hot air balloon ascended once more. Sun Simiao watched the departing balloon in a daze. A day passed, yet they still had not located Cheng Xinran. They only discovered a gruesome scene in a large courtyard, where not a single survivor remained. Cheng Xinran was nowhere to be found. Nor was there a single member of the Tianxia Society. Li Lizzie stared blankly at the courtyard. Where is Xinran? Zizi inquired. Li Lizzie shook her head. Her greatest fear being that Cheng Xinran had fallen into the hands of the Cheng family's enemies, who were numerous and eager for revenge. Search the entire nation. Whoever finds Cheng Xinran shall be rewarded with immense nobility, Wu Mingyang declared. Li Lizzie nodded, instructing her subordinates to commence the search. By a river, Cheng Xinran inspected her troops with great satisfaction. Before her stood over 1,000 individuals, while the members of the Tianxia Society blushed as they stood to her left. Alongside 600 more to her right, they rode war horses of varying ages, all clad in black, wearing black veils and black military boots. 2 handguns were holstered at their sides, and a Tang saber hung on the left side of their steeds. They were special forces. After being sent home by Cheng Chimo, they had not disbanded but had begun training their descendants. The very soldiers who captured Li Lizzie were the new special forces. When Cheng Xinran departed Gansu, the special forces happened upon her and decided to follow her, fearing Cheng Chimo's disapproval. Silently trailing Cheng Xinran, no one dared to speak, not even Cheng Chimo. At worst, he could allow his grandsons to defect and henceforth follow Cheng Xinran. The new special forces were all exceedingly excited. They viewed this as inheriting the family legacy. Becoming a special soldier in the Tang dynasty was a dream cherished by all. Their accomplishments were resplendent. The special forces embodied the spirit of the Tang army. You are exceptionally skilled, and I am exceedingly pleased. I have just discovered that one named Un is the mastermind behind this matter. I cannot tolerate the insult I suffered on my first outing. They must be eliminated, Cheng Xinran declared passionately. Kill, came the single word from 600 special soldiers. The members of the Tianxia Society exchanged glances, astonished by the disparity in resolve. You should return to retirement. Why come out when you can barely move? The special forces captain boasted. Wang Mia's face darkened as he glared at the captain. In his prime, he could have easily defeated the special forces captain. But now he found himself outmatched. The captain was a few years younger, and the gap between them was unmistakably vast. Just wait, you have grandsons while we do not. We shall adopt sons and compete again in a year's time, Wang Mia retorted, looking at Cheng Xinran. My lord, please use those mountain cannons for protection for a year. I shall return to find and train the adopted sons, Wang Mia stated. Without waiting for Cheng Xinran's response, he took his leave. Feeling utterly humiliated by the events that transpired, having compromised the lord's safety and lost the face to remain by Cheng Xinran's side, Cheng Xinran felt reluctant to part with the members of the Tianxia Society. Uncle Wolf, Yushi began. Wang Mia turned his back on her, waving his hand decisively as he departed, harboring an intense determination to ensure that Cheng Xinran would not suffer further harm. Cheng Xinran bit her lip, gazing at the special forces captain. The captain smiled faintly. The lord has commanded us to retire. We cannot disobey. Our purpose here was to deliver the new special soldiers to you, for we are now old. The special forces departed without casting a glance at their grandsons. They had already imparted their first lesson to the children by slaying hundreds. The rest, they must handle themselves. To grow, one must endure trials. The special forces had also faced their own hardships to achieve their current success. As the veterans walked away, the new soldiers did not look back. This was a principle instilled by the veterans. During wartime, special soldiers must harbor no distractions, only acknowledging life and death. Conscience was a luxury that did not suit a special soldier. It was a fundamental requirement. The new recruits committed this to memory. All new soldiers dismounted and knelt on one knee before Cheng Xinran. We greet our lord, they declared in unison, their voices cold and resounding. Cheng Xinran felt a chill run down her spine. Each of them bore blood on their hands. What shall we do next? Cheng Xinran inquired, her voice trembling slightly. Select a captain, the special soldiers replied in unison. The previous batch of special soldiers did not require a selection, as their captain was the sole survivor of the first group. This time, they needed to choose, for none would yield to the other. Cheng Xinran's heart swelled with excitement. She relished watching contests of skill. Very well, Very well, she said, now unafraid. The contest commenced, showcasing all skills. The mightiest among them would claim the title of leader. The final task was unique. Counting ears, a rite of passage for special soldiers. They had all been educated and understood that 9 was not the largest number. However, the veterans had advised them not to be overly confident. What one perceives is not necessarily right or wrong. Perseverance is essential. Special soldiers require unwavering commitment, a lifelong dedication. The new recruits grasped this concept, albeit vaguely. The entire group turned their gaze to Chung Shinran, awaiting her command. Chung Shinran appeared troubled. Whom should they slay? The notion of counting ears was daunting. Who do you think we should kill? She asked. The special soldiers looked at her with confusion. Should not the Lord dictate such matters? Chung Shinran felt her face flush under the scrutiny of 300 eyes. If only her father were present. Such a situation would never have arisen. With a firm resolve, she declared, and Lushan. Understood, the special soldiers replied in unison, mounting their steeds. Chung Shinran watched with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The soldiers were obedient to her, yet she was uncertain of An Lushan's whereabouts. Let us depart for Yuzhou. Chung Shinran commanded coolly. Unaware of An Lushan's location, she resolved to inquire with Li Yu as the procession moved forward. In the sky, a hot air balloon floated gently. Li Lizzie cast a sharp glare in Chung Shinran's direction. The women chattered with laughter. Sister, look, the new recruits do possess some semblance of special forces demeanor. I wonder how many they can count, said Zizi with a giggle. Indeed, it is quite amusing. I have never witnessed the growth of special soldiers. Shall we observe the new recruits? Wu Mingyang suggested. The women turned their attention to Li Lizzie, who seemed intrigued. Truthfully, she too wished to comprehend how special soldiers developed. Li Lizzie felt a peculiar sensation as she glanced downward, spotting an old man leisurely sipping wine while riding a donkey, none other than Cheng Chumo. It was inconceivable that he would wait alone in Gansu. He had long arrived and was aware that the special forces were training new recruits. Not far behind Cheng Chumo trailed over 300 old men on donkeys, resembling a gathering of old friends on an outing. The scene was rather amusing. Special soldiers typically rode horses, and the sight of them on donkeys felt rather odd. I too wish to join the senior group, Zizi chimed in. Li Lizzie nodded in agreement, eager to partake. The hot air balloon descended before Cheng Chumo. He was taken aback. What are you all doing here instead of returning? He asked. We wish to ride donkeys. Or rather, we want to accompany you on your stroll, Zizi replied. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened, and the veterans behind him looked on with disdain. Their lord was shameless, at such an age still surrounded by so many wives. It was no wonder his mind seemed to falter. Now, they were no longer special soldiers. They had successors. Do not regret this. Riding donkeys is no laughing matter. And there are no horse-drawn carriages, Cheng Chumo warned, his face stern. Humph, we have a carriage, we need not yours. Just ensure you attend to our needs. Li Lizzie retorted, producing a signal pistol and firing it into the sky. All waited in place. Soon, a 6-wheeled carriage approached, and Cheng Chumo stood in astonishment. This was the carriage of Empress Changsan. After several modifications, the exterior remained unchanged, yet the interior had undergone a complete transformation. Let us depart, Li Lizzie instructed. The carriage moved ahead, with the special soldiers on donkeys following, leaving Cheng Chumo standing alone in stunned silence. Hurry up, Prince Consort. How is it that other princes may have only one wife, yet you have a whole harem? This is your retribution, they teased, urging him to catch up. Through the carriage window, Zizi waved enthusiastically at Cheng Chumo, who responded with a wry smile. This was indeed the treatment befitting a prince consort. Cheng Chumo followed the procession and soon boarded the carriage, relishing the comfort it provided, much to the disdain of the seasoned soldiers around him, though he feigned ignorance. They were there to instruct special forces, and the mode of transportation was of little consequence. In Yuzhou, Chung Shinran led the special forces into the city. Arriving at the government office. Bring my brother Li Yu out to see me, she declared with a sense of triumph. Before long, Li Yu emerged, and upon seeing Chung Shinran, he leaped with excitement. My little ancestor, you nearly scared me to death. Come down so I can have a look, he exclaimed. Chung Shinran dismounted, hands behind her back, tilting her head up to show Li Yu. He circled around her, asking, who has bullied you? Tell me, and I will make them pay. Chung Shinran's arrival in Yuzhou filled him with elation, as the weight in his heart finally lifted. Brother, why do you look so haggard? Chung Shinran inquired. Li Yu felt an urge to weep at her question, realizing that it was not Chung Shinran who should be weary, but rather himself. Burdened with daily worries about her safety, he feared punishment from Cheng Chumo, but more so, he dreaded the thought of something happening to Chung Shinran, who truly regarded him as family. My little master, hurry and come inside the manor. I will send you back to Gansu tomorrow, Li Yu insisted, determined to ensure her safety. Chung Shinran took a step back, her expression one of wariness as she scrutinized Li Yu. This seemingly innocuous gesture appeared to signal the 300 Special Forces soldiers, who simultaneously drew their swords and glared menacingly at Li Yu. With a mere word from Chung Shinran, they would strike him down. Li Yu felt a jolt of fear, paralyzed by the soldiers' presence. Acutely aware of the lethal capabilities they possessed, Chung Shinran, hands on her hips, erupted in laughter, relishing her authority. With the Special Forces at my command, I am invincible. Li Yu, sweating profusely, asked, do you still dare to send me back? Chung Shinran, with her gaze still cautious, contemplated that if her brother insisted on returning her, she would have no choice but to retaliate and flee. Empowered by the presence of the special forces, she felt fearless. I dare not. We shall not return. Li Yu stammered. Cheng Xinran reveled in her triumph, envisioning the day she would confront Li Lizzie. Where is Lushan? My special forces must eliminate him and select a leader, she declared. Li Yu sighed in relief, wiping the sweat from his brow, and with a wry smile. He looked at her. What do you seek him for? Li Yu asked, perplexed. To dispose of him, Cheng Xinran replied. A thought struck Li Yu. Perhaps Cheng Xinran sought to eliminate Lushan because her adoptive father had forbidden further research into the undead. Is this your father's intention? He cautiously inquired. Cheng Xinran paused. Bewildered, father is in Gansu. How would he know I intend to eliminate Lushan? Li Yu, aware of the implications, shifted the topic. What would you like to eat? I will procure it for you. And Lushan must not be killed, he added. Chapter 467. The plight of farmers. Cheng Xinran looked skeptical. Is the food here truly superior to that at home? She challenged, eyeing Li Yu with suspicion. He chuckled awkwardly. It cannot compare to home. The cuisine in Gansu is of the highest quality. I desire to dine with the common folk, she stated. Li Yu shook his head, struggling to understand the mindset of those born into wealth, feeling impoverished in comparison to Cheng Xinran. Very well, I shall take you, he replied, promptly commanding the usual military to clear a path. Together, they exited the city, but Cheng Xinran's expression soured. Brother, are we going out merely to eat? She huffed. Li Yu turned his head away, and a general approached, reporting, the area within a 10-mile radius has been secured. You may proceed with confidence. Li Yu was pleased. Excellent. Seal all roads. No one is to enter or exit, he ordered, his fear of any unforeseen incidents for Cheng Xinran still fresh. Cheng Xinran felt wronged. Her brother seemed unreliable. She had hoped for a delightful meal, only to find herself in this predicament. 10 miles away, inside the carriage, Cheng Chumo was vexed. What is Li Yu doing? He fumed. Li Lizzie and others found amusement in the situation, secretly commending Li Yu's efficiency. Cheng Chumo peered outside to see a multitude of soldiers blocking the entrance, rendering entry and exit impossible. Let us find a place to dine, he suggested. Stepping down from the carriage, the women did not follow, having already eaten and finding the fare unsatisfactory. Cheng Chumo, accompanied by the Special Forces commander, ventured to a nearby village where they discovered a restaurant. The signature dish was wild chicken stewed with mushrooms, accompanied by corn. After ordering, they awaited their meal. When it arrived, it was quite palatable. A farmer entered, laden with corn. The corn has arrived today, he announced. The proprietor, a short man with deep-set eyes and a large mouth, assessed the corn. 10 won, he stated, handing over a 10-won note to the farmer, who thanked him before departing. Having had his fill, Cheng Chumo settled the bill. How much? He inquired. The proprietor, smiling, replied, 71. Cheng Chumo looked bewildered. How can it be so expensive? The wild chicken cost an additional 21. Noticing Cheng Chumo's confusion, the proprietress explained, the chicken is 51, and the corn is 1 won each. You consumed 10. Cheng Chumo frowned, recalling that the previous batch of corn had only cost 10 won. Your pricing is quite unscrupulous, the Special Forces commander remarked, disdainful of such practices. The proprietor chuckled. This farmer's plight is not an easy one. Cheng Chumo stared in astonishment at the proprietor, realizing that had he been unaware of the market rates, he might have been easily deceived. Ridiculous. What does your sale of corn have to do with the farmer? The Special Forces commander asserted, recognizing the proprietor's attempts to sidestep responsibility. In the Grand Tang dynasty, there existed a multitude of farmers, a collective whose ire few dared to provoke. Yet, one individual audaciously cast blame upon them, proclaiming that low grain prices harm the farmers. The boss uttered yet another remark, prompting Cheng Chumo to rise and confront him. I have encountered shameless individuals before, but you surpass them all in your audacity, Cheng declared, delivering a resounding slap that sent the boss spinning thrice in place. With reddened eyes, the boss regarded Cheng, recognizing the formidable nature of his opponent and refraining from further speech. The captain of the Special Forces contemplated wreaking havoc upon the establishment, but Cheng intervened. Did he not claim that low grain prices harm farmers? Let us keep a watchful eye on him, charging a mere penny for each grain until he is bankrupt, Cheng asserted, eliciting a cold smile from the captain. Our leader has grown more temperate with age. This wretch deserves no less than the extinction of his entire lineage. Consider yourself fortunate, the captain remarked. The boss, consumed by thoughts of reporting to authorities, sensed Cheng's awareness of his intentions. Go ahead and report. Your justifications may deceive the common folk, but utter such words before officials, and you shall be courting your own demise. I seek only your wealth, not your life. Had it been any other official, you would have been reduced to mere bones. Cheng warned. The boss stood aghast, unable to meet Cheng's gaze, fully comprehending the gravity of the situation. The notion that low grain prices resonate with the populace was fleeting. Once they realized the price of corn remained unchanged, the truth would dawn upon them. To be unjustly accused and manipulated is a most unsettling experience. Deceiving the masses may yield temporary gains, but integrity will ultimately prevail. From this day forth, we shall elevate grain prices, Cheng proclaimed. The boss's eyes widened in terror. He was doomed. His mere utterance could instigate a nationwide rise in grain prices, a burden far beyond his capacity to bear. Should discontent arise, his life would surely be forfeit. With hands clasped behind his back, Chung departed, while the captain cast a sympathetic glance at the boss. Initially, he had thought their leader to be benign. Little did he know that his wrath was lethal yet unseen. Returning to the carriage, Chung observed that Cheng Xinran had already satiated her hunger. The journey continued northward, with the captain urging, "Keep pace." Chung expressed a desire to discern the young lady's intentions. Days later, the troop arrived at a quaint town nestled among hills, its walls a mere meter high, freshly constructed. A rotund man emerged, scrutinizing Cheng Xinran. "I am in Lushan. Who might you be?" he inquired. Cheng Xinran, taken aback by his girth, thought, this must be the source of the undead. Suppressing her revulsion, she replied, "It seems you are the one responsible for the zombies." And Lushan nodded, squinting at her, captivated by her ethereal beauty. "Ah, so that is the case. Let us enter the town and discuss matters," he suggested. However, the special forces, sensing danger in the rotund man, drew their swords without awaiting orders, charging forth. And Lushan was swiftly dispatched. Cheng Xinran opened her mouth to speak but held her tongue, recalling their agreement to select a captain for the special forces. The low walls of the town were easily traversed by the warhorses, and without a word wasted, the assault commenced. Cheng Xinran observed from a distance, realizing their formidable prowess. She had underestimated the new recruits, but now she bore witness to their might. As the special forces advanced, many soldiers emerged from the town, their faces adorned with bushy beards, displaying a modicum of combat prowess. Armed with long spears, they were the bane of cavalry. Yet the special forces dismounted and charged on foot, trampling many soldiers underfoot and disrupting their formations. In the Lord's mansion, Sun Simiao stood in shock. Just as his experiment had succeeded, his disciples' faces turned pale. "Master, are those men special forces?" one inquired. Sun Simiao was uncertain. What mattered was whether these strangers recognized him and if they posed a threat to his life. The possibility loomed ominously. "They are here to contest for leadership and will not spare anyone here," one disciple suggested. Before Sun Simiao could respond, a horde of animated corpses surged toward the special forces. The sight was terrifying, and once toppled, they could not rise again. These creatures were long deceased. Their movement was merely a result of external force. The method to create such beings was deceptively simple: drain the corpses of their blood, replacing it with mercury, which remains fluid. By utilizing a seesaw mechanism to induce continual motion, the heart would eventually resume its rhythm, causing the corpses to leap. When they fell, the seesaw was employed once more. The spectacle was fearsome yet fragile. Soon, the exterior of the Lord's mansion was cleared, allowing Cheng Xinran to enter alongside the special forces. Upon encountering Sun Simiao, she dismounted and embraced his arm, exclaiming, "You are here too." Those zombies were rather ineffective and quite dull. Sun Simiao sighed. "Let us not dwell on it. If you are unharmed, let us leave this place of sorrow." "Very well," Cheng Xinran agreed. The special forces observed, knowing they could not depart without resolving their leadership dispute. Cheng Xinran, realizing her miscalculation, announced, "Begin counting. The one with the most wins the role of captain." The special forces complied, dismounting to tally ears. Cheng Xinran covered her eyes, unable to watch the brutality unfold. The soldiers counted with utmost seriousness, and upon reaching 9, they all gazed expectantly at Cheng Xinran. A troubling thought struck her. They could only count to 9, an apparent limitation. Turning to Sun Simiao for guidance, she sought his wisdom on resolving this predicament. "Child, you may play for now. I am in no mood and shall take a stroll," he replied, departing with several disciples. Cheng Xinran faced the eager special forces, who implored, "Just declare who has the most. We shall heed your word." Cheng Xinran, suppressing her nausea, assisted the special forces in counting ears. 9, she had just counted when a soldier interrupted her, declaring, "Master, this is the maximum. Isn't that so?" The other soldiers nodded in agreement. Cheng Xinran felt tears welling in her eyes, convinced that this particular soldier possessed 20 years. However, she had no choice but to conform. And despite the evident truth, she could not voice her doubts. She proceeded to count the ears of the second soldier, arriving again at 9. "Oh, I don't want you anymore," she cried out in distress. "How can you treat me like this? Clearly, there are more than 20, yet you all insist on 9. Who can explain this?" "You see, you've made our master cry," one soldier remarked, claiming he should be the captain. The others shared similar sentiments, none willing to accept responsibility for her tears, blaming their comrades instead. A debate ensued among the soldiers, leaving Cheng Xinran feeling overwhelmed with no resolution in sight. With her big red eyes, she gazed at the flushed faces of the 300 soldiers and proposed, "How about I close my eyes and point? Whoever I point to will be the captain. Does that sound fair?" The soldiers exchanged glances and eventually nodded in unison. "We shall heed the master's wishes." Cheng Xinran shut her eyes and randomly pointed with her small hand. The soldiers watched intently. The moment her hand halted, the designated captain would be chosen. When her hand finally stopped, one soldier cheered and stepped forward, kneeling on one knee before Cheng Xinran. "Captain of the Special Forces, I pay my respects to you, master," he declared, followed by the others assuming the same posture. Cheng Xinran sighed in relief, surveying the scene around her, filled with fallen bodies. Let us depart swiftly, she urged, wishing to leave with the divine healer. However, unable to locate him, she could only leave with the soldiers. Shortly after her departure, Chung Chumo arrived in the city. Taken aback by the sight of countless corpses, this girl is truly ruthless, not sparing a single one, he mused. Just like me. Indeed, your methods are quite thorough, Sun Simiao remarked as he emerged. Chung Chumo turned to him and said, let us leave it at that. Sun Simiao understood the implication. He felt unable to dismiss the matter. Chung Shinran's ruthlessness had resulted in complete annihilation. Had they not been acquainted, he too might have perished. Let us just forget it. I am quite weary, he sighed.